Welcome to Married AF. We are your hosts, Brooke and Randall Fowler. On this show, we discuss the topics that really matter.
Like big veiny cocks and our favorite TV shows.
So pull up a chair at our kitchen table and hang out.
While I bulldog my nuts. Hey, what's up, everybody? We are back with a, we'll call it numero deuce with Rachel Miller.
Number 2.
Hey, Rachel, what's up?
Hello, hello. Not much going on here. How about with you guys?
We just had a long, productive, awesome Memorial Day weekend day. So
Very cool.
We're pretty wore out, but we're ready to do this. We've had just too much demand. I mean, I'll promise you, I'm blown away by, first off, our episode with you is by far our most downloaded episode. By far.
Nice.
It is.
It's crushed a lot of people that, I mean, with Buff Bagwell, the professional wrestler, just blew him out of the water. It's
yeah,
crazy.
what I'm seeing, though, is that our most popular episodes, one, have to do with sexy talk.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
That's, everyone loves it.
yeah, and
Yep.
two, they've become all of our, like, interview guest episodes
Yeah.
are becoming more. So people don't want to hear us talk, really.
No. It hurts our feelings. We're kidding. But
I mean, I can reframe that for you and say maybe you guys just are really stellar interviewers
There
and
we
you
go.
just found your niche.
There we go.
maybe that's,
I like
that's the
that.
way I should look at it, because,
Yeah.
we're absolutely thrilled about it, but I just wasn't expecting that. I mean, you've seen the Twitter. I was,
I know.
people love the shit, and that's not even, I mean, you don't even get to see the DMs that I've got, and people reaching
I'm
out.
not sure
and-
what to think about all this.
no, they love you, but I mean, I get that. We loved you immediately too, but they are big with you, and I've told you about some of the shows that reached out to us, which was very nice that they asked us, hey, would you be cool if we reach out to Rachel to have her on our show?
And we told them, fuck no. Back off.
They're like, there's no poaching allowed.
Yeah,
She's ours.
yeah. Plus, you'd be getting our sloppy seconds, so no.
Right. No, who wants that?
No, but
So,
but we were totally cool. As long as they're cool. I mean, me and you have talked.
yeah.
I
we
definitely
talked
would,
about
if I know anything about them, would weigh in and give you a headway, because nobody wants to go on somewhere where they're going to get freaking run into a buzzsaw that's unnecessary.
that. I mean, look, I can debate with the best of them, and I have a good time with it. But there's debates that aren't worth having. So,
Absolutely.
you just got to make sure it's worth having.
Well,
That's
to
all.
me, I think it's only fair in a conversation. I don't think anything is a conversation unless both parties are somewhat willing to change their mind. You have to be open enough in a discussion. If both sides have already made up their minds, nothing's going to budge anyone. It's not even worth the talk. Or at least
Well, you at least have to be open to validating other people's opinions, even
exactly.
if you don't agree with it.
Right.
100%. But some people don't want to even hear it.
No, and I'm all for, like, you come in and you have your stuff, and I come in and I have my stuff, and we put it on the table, and we choose to, like, walk away with our own stuff. I can even do that. It's when it's like when people's arguments just get nasty and ugly for no reason.
Right. Just insults.
Stick to your argument.
And, yeah.
and that happens, which is what shocked me, is we had nobody troll that episode with you at all.
I was a little surprised by that. I was expecting a little bit of pushback from some people, and I'm like, really? I'm not going to get anything about that. Okay. Maybe somebody just was actually open-minded enough to listen.
Yeah.
So we'll take that, and you don't have to agree with me. That's the advantage to these kinds of things. If you don't like it, you don't ever have to listen, and you don't have to follow me.
Well,
You
exactly.
don't do anything to with me.
Well, I have to ask, So what did your husband think of your episode? I know that he listened. I saw that.
Oh yeah, he did. He loved it. He thought it was great. He thought you guys were fantastic. He's had, like, I used to do a web show, and his first comment was, they must have way better equipment because you sound much better than you used to. And I'm like, I don't really know. Maybe it was the setup that, that the person used to have. I'm like, I don't know. He's like, the quality of the show sounds really good.
Wow, we
That's
appreciate
awesome.
that. I mean, it was, we actually have a different contraption this go around. It was literally just like an auxiliary cord plugged into our mixer and the phone. But I think that it sounds considering it
sounded very good.
I don't know. So,
But now we bought
and
this.
yes, I'm a stellar podcast noob editor.
Well, and what's really funny is he's like, Brooke's got a really good, like, we'll call it radio voice.
Oh, nice.
So,
Everyone says that.
Yeah.
I appreciate
So
that.
he was pretty impressed. So, and he mentioned that he's like, the three of you like played off of each other very well throughout the whole thing. So,
well, we had a blast.
That's awesome.
it was a good time. It was lots of fun, and I didn't even know where the time disappeared to. I was
know.
like, wait, we've been on for how long? I looked at the time on the podcast. I was like, 2 hours? How did that happen?
That is a record as well. Ours usually hover around an hour.
At the most, yeah.
At the most. I mean, when we started, I think Randall was like, and this is very typical, like, he's like, we're just going to do like 30-minute episodes. And I think like even the first episode, we were like 50 something minutes. Like, so, but yeah, I mean, it flew by and everybody listened to all of it, I think. So,
Yeah, I mean, I was horrified before, now I can say this because we're all best friends now.
Right,
But
exactly.
before we started, I'm a over preparer. And so I was worried. I was like, we don't have enough. It's going to be too short. I'm not going to have enough for, shit. We're going to end up with 22 minutes and then a bunch of, dead air. And I thought
had
that
enough questions, like we wouldn't even have had to have taken listener questions because you were so prepped with questions for me.
oh, I know.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, you were willing to talk and engage, and then I mean, I felt bad. I went back and listened to it, and there during the whole, there's a good little section there with the toxic masculinity where where I just got the blinders and like pushed Brooke out of the way, and I talked to you for like 22 minutes
That's
or something.
fine. That was more,
But I was just that I loved it. It was a great
were really
conversation.
chomping at the bit to talk about that, I think. And then,
Yeah.
which is good.
It was, and the thing was, it wasn't what I came in sort of prepped to talk for, but it's a topic I love to talk about, particularly people who are willing to maybe have a different conversation about it. And I think a lot of people don't get to have a conversation like that. It often gets ugly really fast. And that, like, for me, that was probably one of the most rational, well thought out, like, we just continued to have the conversation and offer different ways to think about it. And it moved along really well. I was like, oh, like, huh.
Yeah, I thought
When I
so
listened
too.
to it, I was like, wow, that was actually a really good conversation. I'm glad it's recorded somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you got to meet our friend Muddy on Twitter. Dr. Muddington is what we're going to refer to him now. He's
that's great. I love that.
He's in no way a doctor, but we're going to call him Dr. Muddington. And we're starting a segment that we've been waiting to start for a few episodes now with him. He's one of my best friends from high school, and he's hilarious and he's great. Where listeners will sometimes submit questions for him.
Okay.
And he has recorded his answers and sent us the audio file.
Oh.
And so we're going to ask the question and play his answer, and then you tell us what you think of his answers as a real, therapist,
As a licensed,
a legitimate
yeah.
person in the field. And he knows we're doing this, and he loves it because he loves you, by the way. He loved your episode very much.
And he's in Chicago too, so we
That's
were
right.
like,
Yeah, he's out by he's
yeah,
out by me.
when you need therapy, go see Rachel.
Right. After this, I'll decide whether or not he needs to come see me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When you hear his answers, you're just going to say, all right, call me for an appointment.
We'll start there.
All right, so here we go. Let's roll the
Okay.
first official Dr. Muddington's money tips.
Now it's time for, but not just a tip, balls deep. Thanks to the lubricating power of Spunk Lube.
And I have to say, this segment is brought to you by Spunk Lube, the preferred lubricant of the porn industry.
Yep.
All right,
Super
here we
excited
go.
you guys have they're your first sponsors, right?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was fantastic.
I got a shirt. We got a couple bottles of stuff, and our son tried to go up and use it as lotion. I was like, no,
No.
no, baby, I don't want you to have any part of that.
I mean, there's lots of uses for a good lube, you know.
Yeah, and if one of these, I mean, I think you would have a great time with these products and reading up on them. One of their lubes, I'm looking at it now, is pretty much avocado oil and coconut oil.
Oh, nice.
so it's
I'll have to
edible.
check
That's the
them
edible
out.
one, yeah.
Yeah, it's edible. It sounds like you could cook with it and
All kinds of
moisturize your
uses.
skin.
Multi-purpose.
So here's the first question for Dr. Muddington. I am a happily married woman with 2 kids, and life is generally good. The only complaint that I have is that my husband has forced me to give up my best friends. He thinks that because they are not married and because they like to enjoy their single lifestyles, that they will be a bad influence on me and possibly poison our happy marriage. I've never given him any reason to think this way, but I do understand his concern. My friends love to have one-night stands and enjoy surrounding themselves with drama. Not sure if this question even makes sense to you. Thanks. Now let's roll Dr. Muddington's answer.
Happily married? That's nice. Although you haven't quite convinced me, because it doesn't really seem like you're happily married by this note. So your husband forced you to let go of your fun party friends. All right, I guess I can get it a little bit. I mean, they may be bad influences or whatnot, but I think the root of your problem here is that your husband's got a bad case of little man syndrome. And I don't know if that means he's just little in the cock or if he's, 5'6" or something like that. But his insecurities are the root of this problem. Now, I don't know if he's been cheated on before, like our previous emailer, or if he's just got a bad case of it. But if he doesn't do some work to himself, this is going to start popping up in other places. Because once the friends are gone, then you're going to be out there on an island with him alone. He's going to have all this control, and you're going to start to lose your identity, which isn't going to be good for you, your kids, or anybody else. So I'd go ahead and say you need to have an honest conversation with him and find out what is really lying behind this. Because losing your friends is just no way to live. And I think you should have the right to go out and cut loose with your friends every once in a while. And just as long as you do it, respectfully of your husband and respectfully of yourself too. Your friends may be full of drama, they may be crazy, and they may love one-night stands because, well, shit, who doesn't? But at the end of the day, they're still your friends, and you know they're going to have your back. Whereas your husband needs to understand that also, because I'm sure he has some piece of trash friends too, and I bet you he has a good time smoking cigars and drinking whiskey with them, talking about the good old days when they used to nail cheerleaders. So, at the end of the day, find the root of this problem, solve it, otherwise this is only going to get worse.
And there you go. What do you think?
I would say for a layperson, that's a relatively solid answer.
I was impressed. I hadn't heard it yet either.
Yeah. I think he's not 100% wrong. I think he had some really solid points in there. I might add a few things, but I don't know that I would take anything away from what he said. We're jumping to conclusions about,
The little
why
cock.
he's telling her to... Well,
there you
that
go.
too, but
Yeah.
but the why he's telling her, because let's be really, really honest, there are some friends who may not be good for your marriage.
Sure.
I can put that on the table and say there are some friends who would put you in situations that may not be good for your relationship, but you should know who those friends are, and
Right.
you should be able to judge those friends and make those and have those conversations Like, I'm not a fan of anybody giving anybody orders about like who you can and cannot see.
Right.
Neither is.
But I think it's a
is.
viable conversation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds just like a control issue on his part to me, for sure.
And, and we also don't know the larger context of the relationship, obviously. But Muddy's not wrong in the sense that you do have to be careful about isolation, and you do have to be careful about not losing your identity in a relationship.
And I mean, I don't think it is fair to tell someone, that you can't have your friends. I mean, I think that's just a recipe for future, which Dr. Muddington touched on that too.
Yes, he did.
I agree with him on one part for sure, where he said, this is going to pop up again.
Yep.
If it's allowed.
Right. If we are in this place where, like, I don't trust, that whole conversation about, like, well, I don't trust them. Well, you're not married to the friends. You're married to your wife. So my question is do you not trust your wife?
Absolutely.
And if that's the case, then that's going to pop up elsewhere. And if you're allowed to sort of dictate who she can and can't go out with, are you also allowed to dictate where she spends her money, who else she spends time with? Like, what else are you dictating? Maybe nothing.
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear though. We'll never know because no one's gonna give both sides. But
Right.
I mean, let's play devil's advocate. Maybe if she does have a history of when she goes out with friends or certain friends that she makes bad decisions that can have pretty big repercussions. Maybe when she was younger and they didn't have kids. Those repercussions are different now with kids. So that's always a possibility.
I think you have a solid point about the fact that we don't know the history of either one of them. But to Muddy's point, there may be a root reason underneath this that nobody knows. And I'm a huge fan of then get yourselves in therapy and talk about the larger issue and figure out what's really underneath there, because it's rarely as simple as I don't like your friends.
Right. What are your thoughts on because I always tend to think that there might be when there's this kind of situation where one person in the relationship is uber jealous that where to the point where they're trying to dictate what their partner does. I seem to think that they're projecting their insecurities and maybe they've been they've been cheating or whatever.
No, projecting is super real, and I don't know if everybody knows. All the listeners.
They're
know
like,
what that
I've not
means,
been honest with you, so obviously you're not going to be honest with me.
But,
well, it's that whole concept of I think thou dost protest too much.
Exactly. Exactly.
Boom.
What are you all worked up about over there? You doing something you're not supposed to be doing? Because
okay,
I'm not doing anything over here. So what are y'all worked up about?
Yeah.
That's a dead giveaway for sure.
And very often, particularly if you're looking at relationships where there's a power differential or there's a lot of control, then you see a lot of that. You see that projection, sort of like, I'm doing this thing, so I'm going to accuse you of doing this thing.
Right, exactly.
And you see that in really abusive and unhealthy relationships. You see that pretty regularly. For me, the first thing I would want to know is where else are there control issues?
Well, that's the go-to number one in every, and I don't know about women because I'm not a woman, but in men's minds, and I'm just speaking for me, but I imagine for many others, when you're, dating a girl or when, especially when you're younger, your go-to is always to flip the script. If anytime that you're caught up in something stupid, I guess the natural tendency is to try to.
I know you are, but what am I?
Try to flip the script on them. And
he who smelt it dealt it.
Exactly. There you go.
Exactly.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Right? But it's not, I mean, and the thing is some of that stuff that we do in like middle school and high school, because she mentioned her friends are a whole lot of drama, some of that stuff doesn't leave. Like, some people never figure out how to get out of that space. And so I do understand, spouses who look at their partner and say, I don't really like you very much when you hang out with so-and-so from high school because you act like we're in high school and we're not anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, on one level, I get some of that.
Sure.
But then sort of like have that conversation. Like,
yeah, I mean, because a lot of times, and I think everyone has this friend, right? I bet every married couple has 1, 2, or 3 of these friends that is, the eternal single person.
Who are they for us? Name them by name.
They want, they don't ever want to be tied down. They love their part, and that's fine. Their party lifestyle, they want to stay in that. They don't want to move to what we consider the next phase, which is, we're being married, kids.
In bed at 8:30.
And all that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But
all us old people who are like, wait.
I don't necessarily think that means you have to throw them in the trash.
Right.
No.
To the wayside.
I mean that they hang out, like, you only go out with them every once in a while because, you got to put your kids to bed at a decent time and you don't want to pay a babysitter every single Friday and Saturday night.
Yep.
Exactly. Or, maybe they're not the person you invite to your kid's birthday party because, they're going to show up and get trashed. And that's not what you want at your kid's birthday party. I mean, but I think regardless of, like, has to be a bigger conversation about it.
Not just, you can't go out with them.
Exactly. No, you can't, like, I don't like your friends, you can't hang out with them. Oh, fuck you. I'll see who I want to see. Like, you don't get to tell me who I get to hang out with.
Well, I think that's the reaction you're asking for.
That's when you just took the words out of my mouth, that when you mandate like that, what you're going to get back is, go fuck yourself. Now I'm really going out with them, and we are going to go to that male strip club, and I'm going to stuff dollar bills down in somebody's ball sack.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Yep. And it could all be avoided with just having a civil conversation ahead of time.
Right. And I think you can say, just so you, like, I know they're your friends and I know you really like them. I'm not a big fan of theirs. And, maybe I don't like how you act when you're with them, or I don't think they always have your best interests at heart. And, it worries me when you spend a lot of time with them. That's a different conversation.
Sure.
And maybe that's true. And maybe these friends are a whole lot of drama and they don't, like, maybe they're not healthy for anyone to be around. That can be a conversation. But when you're forbidding somebody and you're like, no, you can't go out with them, then I'm like, okay, so who of your friends do you not get to see?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that definitely opens a can of worms for a lot more stuff.
But I mean, Buddy's answer was pretty solid answer. I'll props to him for that. It was pretty good.
Right.
We got one more for him, and then we'll be done with the Dr. Muddington money tips. This question is, my fiance and I have a wedding date set for October, and things are going great. My problem is that as we move closer to the wedding, all of the pain from her cheating once during our courtship is surfacing.
Uh-oh.
I've not said anything to her about this rekindled pain because I promised her that she was forgiven years ago. She has been great ever since, and my rational brain does not think she would hurt me again. However, my man brain occasionally thinks maybe she is fucking everybody. What do you think? Am I fucked? Let's hear what Dr. Muddington says.
Okay, Dr. Muddington, what you got?
Oh, boy.
All right. So what to do when your girlfriend got dirty dick back in the day and now she's your fiance? And yes, I meant that to rhyme. So look, man, here it goes. Are you fucked? Nah, I don't think so, man. I just think that the planning a wedding and everything that goes into it definitely starts to make you think about everything that comes after. I tell you, you'll sit there, you'll think about ex-girlfriends, you'll think about how much money's going out. There isn't a thing that you won't think about going up into that date. But I'll tell you, if you have truly forgiven her, then this will pass, just like everything else that's going to go through your head coming up to this. I would say you got to look at a couple different things. If there was a reason why she cheated, then, you need to really think about that reason, and has that been fixed? Secondly, were you the reason she cheated? Because I know a lot of times in situations like this, we fail to look in the mirror and see that we might have been the problem. Now, either way, it seems like these problems have been resolved, just judging by you saying she was forgiven years ago. So I'd say, brother, you just got to move forward. She seems like a wonderful girl. Everyone fucks up from time to time. And, you know, if you can spend the rest of your life together with her, I think you're going to be a lucky man. I think you're going to be a happy man. And shit, if all else fails and she does it again, the only solution, fuck her sister.
We did not listen to these ahead of time. That is fucking funny.
That is
Dr. Muddington, everybody.
Classic Dr. Muddington. Nice.
So what do you think?
So we're oh boy. He started off on solid footing,
Yeah.
and then he dive bombed at
I'm
the
going
end.
to guess
I
that
don't
the
know
fuck
what
your
that
sister
was.
thing is not
Yeah.
what you were going to say.
Definitely not on my agenda of things to say. But I think he's got a really good point about the fact that weddings are, they're so freaking stressful. Like, they bring out the worst in people.
Which is why we went to the courthouse.
We sure did. We had both done the big wedding before and spent all the money and then shit all over it and signed divorce papers.
I think I was still paying for my wedding when I got divorced.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that
We got married in
expensive.
the Dominican Republic the second. Like, I got married in the Dominican Republic the second time. I was
I know.
no,
I
we're
saw
not
your
doing,
pictures. It was very pretty.
Destination. Oh, thank you. Like, destination. The only people who are showing up are the people who can like are super determined to be
The
there.
true
like,
OGs.
Oh, yeah. You got to be all in to show up at a destination wedding.
We did
Right?
courthouse and, my sister's pastor on a Monday morning at like 9:30 married us
There you go,
last minute.
right?
But
We had our son there.
running around like he was too, like a wild animal.
It was fantastic.
There you go.
I mean,
It was probably everything you wanted it to be.
It was perfect.
we were
Absolutely
married,
perfect.
and in our minds, we were married years before that. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's sort of this formality.
It
Because you guys
was,
said you
for
lived,
sure.
you lived together first for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
oh,
had
yeah.
a kid who was
Right?
Yeah, he was almost 2. He was
Yeah.
like a month away from being 2 at our wedding. So yeah, everything was ass backwards, but perfect.
Well, so my question
Exactly.
about this question for you, Rachel, is I thought that Muddy hit on a good point with not only does the wedding bring out all the stress and everything for everybody, but rekindling maybe negative thoughts, the cold, that kind of goes into the cold feet, right? Like you kind of start reliving
bit, yeah.
all the bad scenarios, which is maybe what this guy's doing.
All the reasons I shouldn't do this.
Absolutely.
Like, what am I thinking
Yeah.
about? Like, I thought this was a good idea. No, I'm not so sure this is a good idea. See, here are all the reasons why it's not a good idea.
yeah, the self-sabotage.
Yeah. And I think Muddy's right. I think that's definitely possible that that's a piece of it. I also hesitate around this. I told her she was forgiven years ago.
I was thinking the same thing.
I didn't think about that. What do y'all mean?
Yeah.
Why does that catch your eye? Because I
Because
get it. Now, I'm an
I
idiot.
told her she was forgiven.
Yeah.
Not I forgave her.
There you go.
Uh-huh.
God, I'm stupid. I was like, what are y'all hearing that I'm not hearing? Because that just sounds normal. I got you.
I said the
But for
words that I
me-
forgive her. Doesn't that mean I forgive her?
Right. But I also don't believe that sabotages anything.
No.
I
I was
think it
thinking
means
he
you might
really
have
didn't
some work
forgive
to
her.
do.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you should sit with that for a little bit, and you should, either go talk to somebody about it or sit down and have a conversation with her. Like, yes, she might be hurt. Like, I get that. But you're better off having that conversation before the wedding than after the wedding.
Yeah, because you don't want to end up calling off the wedding 3 days after the wedding.
Right.
When
like,
this finally bubbles
this is a
over.
bad thing. We can't get past this.
Right.
But do you think it is possible that, like Muddy said, that it'll, once he sees
Yes.
her at the wedding and that he'll
yeah.
forget all about it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very possible. But I think if it's really bugging him, there's a reason it's bugging him. And he needs to either, find a good therapist to help him work out the jitters, work through the cold feet, get through, that stuff so that it doesn't, ruin the day. Because you don't want that running through your head the whole
God,
day.
no.
That's not...
No,
You're supposed to be
definitely
there
not
and
cool.
present and happy and a good deal. But I also think, yeah, like if you got a lot of other crap going through your head about everything's awful and that thing popped up once or twice, then it's not really that huge of an ordeal. Like, if you actually forgive her, and here's the thing. People think forgiveness means forgetting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not possible.
Sure.
I mean, it's there in the back of your head. It may mean you've let it go. It doesn't mean it doesn't pop its ugly head up every once in a while and remind you, because your brain is really just trying to keep you safe. So that's what it does. It doesn't mean you can't go, I know what the circumstances were. We've worked through this. We've talked through this. I've moved past this. It's okay. And move on again. Like, it doesn't have to be a huge ordeal, but you're never going to forget it. Like, it's not like the Men in Black where they zap your memory and it goes away. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Right?
If I had that kind of power.
What did you think?
Gone.
What did you think about Muddy saying that maybe he needed to look in the mirror and see why? See, that's kind of where I disagree with him a little, but I'm not sure. So I'm asking you.
Tell me more about why you disagree.
Well, I don't know if there's a way to say why you cheated and then be like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense why you cheated then. So
you don't think there's a justifiable reason?
Yeah, I don't know. Is there really? I mean, in your head as a therapist.
So I'll go back to my standard answer of I believe that everyone's behavior makes sense in context.
Okay.
Does that mean that there's a reason? I don't know, but it makes sense. But I also don't know what her history is and any of that kind of stuff. I don't know what their relationship was like, but I think Muddy has a point when he says it never hurts to look at yourself and be like, what was your role in that too? If you had one. He may not have one, but it never hurts to look at it and go, it's almost back to that projection piece. Is the reason that the cheating thing comes up again because you got some stuff of your own under there? I don't know.
Well,
but looking at the mirror really makes you stop and go, what's happening with me that this is now a problem when it hasn't been a problem for you?
And what are your thoughts on the old adage? Because I know that I'm sure it's different in academia and your field, but that women will cheat because they're an emotional disconnection. And men do it because they just want to fuck. And is that even an excuse that is plausible to you as a therapist? If this couple were with you and it come out and she was like, it was just because I wasn't feeling connected to him emotionally.
Well, I hear what you're saying. So you're asking me if the gender card plays true?
Yes. God, you're good. You get me.
I know. It's a little scary. We seem to play. Poor Brooke, she's over there going, excuse me, I'm in the space too.
Yeah.
I mean, the answer is yes and no. Yes, some women cheat because of emotional disconnection. Some women cheat because they feel like they've lost their identity. Some men cheat because they feel alone and lost, and some men cheat because they just like to have sex. And sometimes women cheat because their sex life got boring and they wanted something else to do. There isn't a single reason why anybody cheats. It's not that simple. If it were that simple, we wouldn't have jobs.
Yeah.
Because there's always so much more stuff around it. But I also believe that there are things happening either in the relationship or with the individual that seemed like a viable option. Well, and sometimes it doesn't happen, it's not intentional.
Like they didn't go out, for the most part, I think a lot of it isn't.
Yeah.
They go out seeking it. It just,
right.
They put themselves in a situation where it just happens.
Yep. Well, it's like a slippery slope of things where, they have a coworker and they really like them. And
so they go to happy hour.
It's the work wife or the wife or the work husband, right? Yeah. And they're just friends, and it's totally cool.
We don't use that terminology.
And then all of a sudden, what was a work dinner then turned into not so work-related drinks after dinner. And then the next thing you know, they're complaining to each other about their spouses. And the next thing you're like, nobody set out to do that.
Right.
But when you start to open windows, like if you think about it, like, you know, your marriage is like it's your bedroom, and you have a window and you have a door, and all of a sudden, like, that window just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and pretty soon you cracked it open, and then it was wide open, and you were out the window. Like,
I know exactly what you're saying. That kind of leads me into what I was going to ask you is, you know, I'm totally, you know, okay with being open and honest. There's been plenty of times, girlfriends from middle school to high school, I've cheated on girlfriends. They've cheated on me. I mean, that goes all the way back through. But if I'm honest with myself, every time I ever cheated on anybody, going all the way back to, you know, I can remember freshman year in high school, I knew the relationship was over in my head as soon as it happened. Do you think most people know that and they should acknowledge that? Or is it possible for the relationship you're in to not be over to you and you still go and fuck someone else and not be a swinger? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I think it's 100% possible. I think sometimes people fall into things and they never intended to leave their spouse. And people cheat who still love their spouse.
Yeah.
Like,
I was just telling Randall, like, mouthing to him, that's not for him, though, for sure. For him, but yeah, I'm with you, Rachel. That I think other people, it is a possibility that you can recover from that and come back from it. But, like, personally,
well, and I also think that people end up cheating who never thought they would be there.
Yeah,
like they weren't said it. Like they weren't trying. Yes, there are instances of cheating where basically people used it to end their relationship.
Self-sabotage or whatever.
Yes, because I know when they find out, this whole thing can end.
Right.
There you go.
And
I'm too chicken shit to just end it because I don't feel anymore for them, but I'm just going to go fuck it up, throw a grenade in this shit. So that
absolutely. Like it basically just like they blew it up on purpose. There are those people. There are absolutely those people. But then there are people who just find themselves in situations and are like, I didn't even really want to, like, once it started and I was there and then maybe I didn't want to be there anymore. I never wanted to leave my partner. I never wanted to leave my marriage at all. But once I was in it, then I didn't know how to end it. And then and lots of couples stay together. The truth of the matter is there's more shame these days placed on couples who decide to stay together and work it out than there are on those people.
So you have successfully seen it, like, in your practice, people that have been able to, in a healthy manner, get over it, put it behind them, and move forward.
So our favorite, our favorite person, Esther Perel, who I love to use, she has a really great book called The State of Affairs. I think it just came out maybe less than a year ago. She really does a lot of work on infidelity, and she talks about this a great deal, that in many ways an affair can basically restart your relationship. Like her adage, and I'm in pretty much a great agreement with her on this, is the marriage the people had is over after an affair, but if they choose to stay together, we can help them create a new one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, and the truth is most people end up in 2 or 3 serious relationships in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets to be with the same person.
Nice.
That's pretty deep.
That is deep.
Right?
I like it though. But I mean,
but it makes a whole lot of sense that way.
It does. It makes total sense.
Well, so what are your thoughts on, from, like, if I'm looking at it from an outsider with all the technology now, and, you know, I don't know the numbers, but tons of, you know, I'm sure marriages end and have more, you know, bullshit arguments over social media interactions and text messages that, you know, partners find, or wives or husbands.
Shared Facebook.
And, you know, looking in each other's phones, find this or that. And it's the emotional, you know, what do you think's more damaging? If someone has an emotional connection, similar to what you're saying with the, you know, because I hear it all the time. Everyone talks about, you know, oh, my work husband or my work wife. I hate that. It drives me nuts because I'm more scared of that emotional connection.
Right. That's why I said we don't use
you know,
that.
I feel is so, I don't know why I feel that way, but it kills me, the thought of, you know, Brooke having that
because
emotional
we're best
connection.
Friends and fuck that. Yeah, you're not allowed to be close enough to somebody else in your life to call them your whatever wife. Like,
She would
Yeah.
kill me. But is that as dangerous in your opinion?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because, number one, so let me ask you a question, both of you. What's your stand on an emotional affair? Do you buy into that? Because some people don't.
I do. I think
I do,
if you're
yeah.
if you're confiding in another person things that you don't confide in your husband or wife, and that can be different for everybody because you know how open they are with
Yeah.
their husband or wife and how
Right.
close they are. But you know, if you find something, you know, it's hard for me to say because with me and Brooke, I mean, I know it sounds weird and most people couldn't do it. She could take my phone all week and could have hers.
Yeah.
That wouldn't bother us. You know, most people would freak out.
but if somehow,
But
some
if I
way
saw
we found
her-
out that, yeah.
You know, somehow she was talking to somebody and they were talking about something really, you know, something that she loves and that I didn't even know about or she doesn't even talk to me about. That
Like
would,
if she's struggling with something really, really badly and you weren't even aware of it and she's only sharing that piece of herself with someone else.
sure, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And same for me.
Or it
like
feels like it's
yeah.
taking away from your relationship.
Uh-huh. Yep. That would be a problem. Yeah. I mean, and that's where we just, I mean,
I don't have the you know, neither one of us have a problem with, you know, having friends of the opposite gender and all that. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody gives a shit about that. I mean, that's all fine and that doesn't bother us, but if there's a connection that replaces your spouse in any way,
Yep.
I don't know what would be worse. Both of them would be terrible.
And it depends on who you ask. Like, there are some people, the people who don't think cheating is a thing until you have actual, like, penetrative sex. Like, those people don't think emotional affairs are even a thing.
right.
Like, that
Because
doesn't
they're
make
really
any
dead
sense to them.
inside, I think.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
mean-
You're right because you mentioned that last podcast. Is
Yeah.
where does it start, and that's different for every couple, and you need to set those boundaries, right?
Well, and that's
exactly.
Yeah. And we, early on,
Yeah, we've set those for sure.
yeah.
Well, so let me ask you guys a question because I meant to ask you this last week and I forgot. So do people look at you when they see that you have a shared Facebook page and do they say, oh, so which one of you cheated?
Oh,
all
we
the time.
definitely heard that.
all the time. Yeah. I mean,
I think it's funny. I've even seen the memes
Yep.
about
Yeah.
it, and I laugh about it honestly. And I think all of our friends though that are our friends that have met us and know our relationship,
None of our friends
they
ask us
wouldn't
that, yeah.
expect anything else. But we're not the
Exactly.
tip. You know, everybody's different.
yeah.
Right.
But it's new
so-
people that, like, if they're trying to find us on Facebook, I'm like, oh, I share it with my husband. And it's almost
yeah.
the first thing. Which one are you cheating? I'm like,
Who butt
which one-
fucked somebody?
Yeah. Like, it's,
Yep.
nope. And it's just funny to us. Like, or if we see those memes that people post of, like, just hating on anybody with a shared Facebook. I mean, it's to me, it screams like that you just wish you had a relationship that was that close.
And I'll give you
I guess.
I'll give you an honest nugget for you to look into my soul right here, Rachel. Is my previous marriage I didn't have a Facebook. All right, so when me and Brooke were together, she had a Facebook, I still didn't have one. I started using hers, as we'd been together a year probably when I started, like, she would meet my friends, and so they would friend request her and kind of talk to me through it, and then then I would look at it, and I fought Facebook for years. Like, I don't care about that shit.
Well, and he kept saying, like, I think I'm going to get one. And then anytime he was here, like, I would be at work or whatever, and he would have my computer, and he would have full access to it. Like, I was like, I don't
of
care.
course.
Here, it's not. And it was hilarious. Like, all of a sudden, I would be at work and see posts from me that were not me, but they were Randall, like talking about going out on the lake or whatever. And I'm like, all right, cool. And people will be texting me like, oh, when are you going on the lake? I'm like, well, Randall's headed out there. He just posted that from my Facebook.
Well, and what's great, and I noticed this tonight, was the tweet that I sent out right before we started this episode. And I was like, oh, hold on to your genitals. This is going to get crazy. We're going to be talking about, this, that, and the other. Rachel shared it, or retweeted it and said, like Randall said, and that could have been me or you that sent it. But she already knew that was me, just like all of our friends know when I post and when you post.
Oh, that's the funny is like we know who our friends are that have spent any amount of time with us. Because they're like, they'll be like, I love what your husband posts on Facebook, because they know it's not me. Like, they're like, there's such a distinct difference between what, and that's the another thing that people say they get annoyed with like shared. Well, how do I know who's posting? Like, first of all, why do you care so much? And second of all, like,
if you know us at all, you know
exactly. If you are really friends with them, you know. So I mean, I just think it's funny.
But so for us,
if my husband and I shared a Facebook page, you would know who was posting.
Yeah,
like it would not take rocket science to figure out which one of us it was. Like.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's a pretty much a world of difference between the two of us. But I mean, it was he was posting stuff as me, and then I just came home one day, and it was because at first, before we were married, it was Brooke Dunlap, Randall Fowler, and then it was like I don't know when your name got first, but I don't even.
When I took it over.
Yeah, because then you put Randall
it.
Fowler, Brooke Dunlap, and then when we got married, I think I went in there and changed my last name.
Yeah, but it was, for us, I never had one. And I was always, and this could definitely be tied to, my insecurities in previous relationships, the things that I've learned from, making mistakes and having the mistakes done to me as well, where when we were together, everything has been so great from the jump. We knew we were meant to be together. I was like, I don't even want to risk an argument, right. Like let's just share. And that a lot of that's on me, because when me and Brooke first got together, I was all tight about my phone just because that's how I was with previous people. Like, don't look at, that's my privacy. Don't go through my phone, which that's all me.
It's pretty big that this has been many years
never
now.
Care,
But I'm saying, like, when we first were together, you were a little bit more.
Well, I have been my whole life. Like, I've been always before you so tight about you don't get in my space.
Yeah.
So you're like the first person I've let down my walls to, I guess.
So that's where I wanted to go. So
let's hear
my question about you, because what this says to me is that you finally were willing and able to be fully vulnerable with somebody.
Yep.
And it doesn't sound like you were able to do that before. And so you don't feel the need to hide any piece of yourself or hold any piece of yourself back, because it doesn't sound like you're at all concerned that Brooke will ever use any of those vulnerable pieces of you against you.
Sure. Absolutely. No, that's a perfect synopsis.
And it was the same kind of thing for me. I mean, it wasn't, I didn't have like a specific thing about my phone or anything, but it was there was a distinct difference between previous relationships versus after being with Randall for a while, that it's like, oh my God. And it's so, such a relief.
That's what I was just about to say. And we've all had plenty of relationships. I don't know if you have, like we have, where maybe you thought you were in love with someone, but you never were able to be your authentic self all the time.
There's a huge difference.
And when you finally can, and I just speak from experience, it's something you can't even quantify.
You can't quantify.
No.
It's
that sort of intangible, not measurable thing that helps balance out relationships.
Right. It's just like everything just feels right and comfortable, and there's nothing in the world there's not one small thing that I would change about our relationship. Like, not even one thing. And that's, I like, just from being in a relationship before this one for like 10 years where there was lots of things I could have picked out to change about it, and just kept thinking, oh, well, we'll just it'll get better here. But I mean, there's not one thing that I've ever wanted to change about our relationship, and that's such a relief.
Here's the proof in the pudding that always makes us laugh, and then I'll move us off this. Is
off to Brooke and Randall therapy session.
all of my friends, my guy friends, Brooke has met them all from college and high school, and there's always any guy will tell you there's a bro code about the fuckery that you've done in the past, and I'll have them reach out to me, and they'll be like, "Bro, does she know this? Can I talk about it?" I'm like, "Dude, she knows everything, but does she know this?" I was like, "Dude, God, yes." She laughs about that. I told her about what I did.
I don't necessarily want to relish on the memories of the shit you did,
of course,
but like the situations and like the party that whatever might have happened at, I'm totally fine. Yeah, I mean,
but the point is they're like, "Oh my God, you've told her about that."
Yeah.
So there's no ammo. I mean, that's right. That's where I feel good about unloading.
Because what good is it going to do me to be jealous about some girl that you finger banged in college?
Of course. Agreed.
Right? Like everybody has a life before now.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, people,
he has a child from the previous marriage. I know you were with us.
That was from artificial insemination.
There's proof that you were with.
It was immaculate conception.
I was a virgin until you, babe.
Right. I mean, it's not something that I want to like have all the gory details on or think about all the time. But I mean, I'm not going to freak out if one of your old buddies wants to talk about the good old days.
You remember that girl? And you remember that time? And
right.
That was really funny. And it was totally funny. And we can laugh about it. But I also think that there's this really fucked up misconception that jealousy is a good thing.
Yeah.
And that the problem for me is that jealousy is really about mistrust and possessiveness.
Oh, sure. I mean,
and
I totally agree with that.
That doesn't work in a healthy relationship for me. It's a little bit, and it also speaks to insecurity. Just to the point that you made, Brooke, I'm not jealous of some whatever. I know who I am and I know what I bring to the damn table.
Right.
I'm not in the least bit concerned.
Yeah, and I know who he wakes up to every morning.
Yes. I know what our relationship is, and I know, I'm not worried about those things. That does not mean that I don't think couples need to protect their relationships. And so there are moments and times where, you sort of have to look at, is that helpful to our relationship? Is me having an individual female friend who doesn't know my wife, does that put me on a slippery slope in my relationship? Does it put my relationship in potential?
My answer to that is yes. That would put my relationship in a slippery slope.
Randall doesn't even like to be at his office if there's nobody else really there, and maybe it's just the receptionist girl there. He's fucking out of there.
I'm almost like Mike Pence, and that could be a bad.
And I'm like, babe, you left her there by herself. He's like, I don't know her. I don't want to be there alone with her.
Well, I mean, and that's all. A lot of that is reflective of the damage of me that I'm sure Rachel's foaming at the mouth to open up.
I don't therapize my friends. My kids are always like, don't therapize me. I'm like, I don't therapize. They're like, you therapize everyone.
It totally, if Brooke doesn't know them, for some reason, and I've never been this way with anyone else, and it just all kind of points to why I think we're fit so well, is that, if I meet a girl, I'm like, even somebody I work with, as soon as I get home, I'm like, babe, just got this new woman hired. Her name's this. She's decent looking. She's in her mid-50s.
Right.
2 kids, about to get married.
Bio.
She lives on the other side of Atlanta. Her fiance sells cars, and this is her. So.
Well, and I think that there are friendships that are also friends of your marriage.
Sure.
And there are friendships that are maybe not, and that's probably something to look at. And no, I'm not opposed to particularly men who work in more women dominated fields. You're going to have more women colleagues. You're going to have, women friends, and that makes total sense. And nobody needs to be paranoid, but it doesn't mean you need to be oblivious either.
Sure. And that,
Like, I think there's a way to balance that.
this is a perfect way for me to segue us to a question from a listener, though, because that's perfect. Is, do you think that it's rational that we're moving to, and I don't, I'm not saying I agree with this, but it is a good question, to a point where men are going to be afraid to work with women, and maybe women afraid to work with men, and we end up having a very weird workforce out there because everyone's afraid of everybody.
No, I don't. I don't think that's where we're going to end up.
I haven't seen one bit of difference with this whole Harvey Weinstein shit, and I work in the corporatist of corporate America.
Well, I've seen a huge difference just in me. As far as like what I'm terrified. I double and triple check my behavior, and just to be respectful. I mean, it's to be respectful.
Yeah, and I hear that, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but I also think that we're gonna get a little bit of the pendulum swing to the opposite end, while people figure out what the new normal is.
Sure, that makes sense.
So we've gone from a really like power structured, men are on top, men think things in general society has taught them that certain behaviors are acceptable. Women are finally coming to a place where they've been able to step out and say, this is what happens to us in these environments. Like, men have not had to pay attention to the things that they say and how they talk to us and how they treat us. And this is problematic. And so, yes, we're going to get a little bit of the pendulum swing over to the other side, where men are going to maybe have to be more careful and aware. And no offense, women have been afraid for years.
Well, yeah, that's why I threw that in there about, both sides can, I think sometimes I've seen it where, and Whitney Cummings, this is great. I don't know if you know who she is. She's a comedian, and she was on Joe Rogan's podcast, who's one of my heroes. I love Joe Rogan. And they were talking, two comedians that have been friends forever. And she walked into the podcast and they went to hug, and both of them, their first thought was, oh shit, should we touch? Is this, and they both talked about it on the podcast that they ended up going to like a bro side hug.
Like a fist bump.
And they were like, they both acknowledged how weird it was, where they didn't understand, they didn't know where they were now. And is that what you're talking about with this pendulum swing and the kind of confusion?
I think the rules are unclear. Like, everybody used to know what they were. Women knew that there was shit they were going to have to tolerate from men in order to get through their workday. And men thought that shit was perfectly acceptable. I don't know if you've ever seen this really old Dolly Parton movie, 9 to 5.
God, yes.
Yes, with Dolly Parton.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the greats.
Yep.
Right.
We watched that recently,
We
I
did.
think.
But who's the guy who plays their boss?
Dabney Coleman.
Yeah, okay. He's the typical corporate jackass who chases around the desk and won't keep his hands to himself. The thing is almost every woman has a story like that.
Oh God, yes.
And not
even from a boss.
Right. And not all of them are that extreme, obviously, but where women are spoken to about that. So I'm not all that concerned if men are a little unsure of what the rules are now and they have to be extra careful. Okay, figure that out and sit over there in that discomfort, since we've sat over in that discomfort our whole lives.
Yeah.
Sit over there in that discomfort while we navigate a new set of rules. And I think that the rules will just change.
Sure.
Men might not be able to talk like they're, in frat houses at work.
Which I'm fine with.
And no matter how cool the girl is, because I'll speak from experience that I've always been kind of a guy's girl. And
guys will cut loose around you more.
The guys tend to cross the line, or they, for sure in the past, when I was a lot younger, would immediately cross the line way quicker. And I'm in my head motherfucker, you don't, just cause I'm your bro friend, doesn't mean that you can do that shit.
I sold sex toys for 10 years and talked about it on Twitter. You should have seen some of the stuff I got.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Oh my God.
And, Tom and I start dating, and there's and people say things to me.
Dick
and people
pics
talk
galore.
to me.
All
There's no filter. People have no filter, and they assume that because I sell sex toys, I'm way cool, and they can say anything they want to me. Mm-hmm. You know, and he had to figure out how to maneuver some of that stuff, because he's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like,
right.
That's still my girlfriend. Like,
I think that's what Randall went through at the beginning of our relationship too. Like,
oh, sure. I mean, there's times where, you know, I've had to, you know, have chats with people, even, you know, even my own friends, you know.
Yeah, to check some of your
that are still my great friends. And they just needed to hear that, you know, I mean, you remember
just because she's cool doesn't mean.
we had that happen at the, you know, at the bowling alley we were at.
Yeah.
You know,
on the lake.
I almost grabbed somebody up by the throat, you know, that you may talk to, you know, your wife or your girlfriend this way, but you don't talk to mine that way. And because I don't talk to yours that way.
Right.
And that's where my whole thing about like at work comes. And I'll gladly jump on the sacrificial grenade here and say, I'm in that boat of uncertainty of knowing how to handle this change. That doesn't, I don't think that makes me a bad guy or a,
it makes you a guy
or a dick or anything.
No, it makes you a guy who grew up with different rules.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I want to be respectful, and so a lot of times my way of being respectful is
avoidance.
I'm out.
Yeah, avoidance.
I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna talk and be dirty or inappropriate ever, but because other guys might be when I'm standing by them in the damn break room eating lunch, I'm not going to be guilty by association. I'm out.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you up for a challenge?
Sure.
So here's my challenge to that. Instead of being the guy who avoids it, because the thing that I've learned about you in the last couple weeks is that you're a guy who gets it, which says to me that you're the guy who can check the guys in the room.
Oh, sure.
You're the guy who can look at them and say, you don't get to talk that way. You're the guy who gets to say, I heard that and I'm not okay with it.
Absolutely.
And so, like, it's guys like you who get it. It's the guys who are like, it's the guys who use that hashtag, like, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
Like, I know that lots of you are not that guy.
It's
and
not
I know
me.
that lots of men understand this. But what that means is that if you get it, you have a responsibility.
Sure.
And so instead of avoiding those things, you get to stand up.
Sure.
And you get to be like, yeah, I heard you. I know you think that it's funny and you think it's cool. It's not. It's just not funny. Don't do it.
100%. And where it's hardest for me, and this is fascinating to me again, so I'm going to use my word fascinating. When I say fascinating, y'all know I'm in. And that usually means I have a personal interest in it because it's intriguing to me. But I'm all about that outside of like my work life. You know, you could ask Brooke, I'll be the first person to, if I see anyone being mean to anyone or being inappropriate to anyone, whether it be a girl or, you know, bullying somebody or being, you know, trying to pick on somebody, even in a bar, any situation, I'll be the one that jumps in immediately and deals with that shit. In corporate America, it's so hard because you can get wrapped up just by being in the scenario, even if your part in the scenario
Is to
was
try and
the good
squash
guy, because it shows on the record you were involved. Somehow your name is still in it. That's the only part that keeps me.
Well, and Randall tends to, if he injects himself in any way, he immediately becomes the aggressor because of his size
He's the big
and
guy.
what he looks. Yeah, and so that's I think why he has immediately resorted to withdrawing from all at work because he's like, fuck this, it's not worth losing my job because I'm trying to help. Like,
how damaged am I is the question. Am I fucked? I'm kidding.
No, you're not. But I think you bring up a really good point about how to be a good bystander. And there's a lot of work. There's a guy who does a lot of work on masculinity. His name is Jackson Katz. And I love his work. And he has a book, I think, what's it called? The Macho Paradox. And it talks a little bit about that. And the thing he really pushes is sort of that bystander approach, but there's different ways to do that. Like, you can report that stuff, and that maybe doesn't force you to have quite the same confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, you can say, I'm uncomfortable. I'm gonna walk, like, I'm uncomfortable with what's happening in this space. I'm gonna leave. Or there's ways to sort of, you've even seen, like, to help women out of sticky situations that don't require confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's ways to do it that don't require you to do that. And some of it may even just be in reporting and being able to report it when you see it.
Yeah. And that goes to the culture shift change, right? All the way up to the CEOs and shit nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That they have to make a safer space for
Yes.
raising these concerns, because I don't care what they say publicly, and when, you know, these big companies align with all the, you know, the stuff that's going on nowadays, and they say they're in the corner of women or anybody, you know, people being mistreated. But until they make it to where that kind of stuff can be, you know,
Well, you're not going to get repercussions.
yeah, that
for
there
reporting.
aren't, because they still, you know, every company, I'm sure you've worked for plenty that have said this too. Oh, we have a no retaliation policy. Sure. Sure you fucking do. You know that if you bring some shit to your boss that makes them have to do more paperwork, you're forever that guy or girl. And if
Does
that's
your
not
company have that?
retaliation, what
Because-
is?
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of rewriting of policy.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of rewriting of HR manuals. You're going to see a lot of training. I know someone who's doing some of this training.
Oh, I bet
You know,
it's
sexual
everywhere.
harassment training. She gets, people say like the most ignorant things, you know, but like, I think we're going to get more of that. I think we're going to see.
Well, Randall just went through some sexual harassment training at his job, and some of the stuff that people asked.
It blows me away what
holy shit, people
guys and girls still have questions about whether or not it's appropriate or not.
right, and like he came home and told me, and I'm like, are they 12?
You know, like
Because
it was.
why did they have
Right?
to ask that?
It was a great training. The person that did the training did a very good job. They were very open, and it was very good stuff.
But then you went to Hooters for lunch.
Yeah. No, we didn't go there. We didn't go there. They brought it in, which was hilarious.
Yes, so we give
The
money to
irony.
Hooters after. Okay,
Yeah.
But
and people who know me will tell you, like, I don't step foot in Hooters. Like, I won't give them I won't buy like the Hooters.
well, they're closing down, aren't they? Aren't they closing?
They might be.
I think they're
have
going
absolutely
under.
no
I
idea.
don't know, but when
But I
Randall
have
told me they ordered
huge
that,
issues
oh my gosh, I
with
was
that. Like, what are you doing? But my issue with them was, you know, we're a family restaurant. Bullshit.
your whole
Bullshit.
yeah. I mean, they're
But that's actually a really solid example of how, like, sexism is around in everything, but it's not always something, but because it's so normalized, we don't think about it. So somebody didn't think that it was ironic at all to order Hooters after a sexual harassment
I know.
training.
No,
Like, who thought that was a good idea?
Oh, they did. When the lady that did the training came in to get her plate of food and saw it, she was laughing her ass off, like, and it was she was very like this is unbelievable, laughing her face
Right.
off, because it had nothing to do with her. She didn't buy it, but that was funny.
You're gonna
But
have to tell me who ordered the lunch.
what
after
really
this.
got me about it was some of the questions, you know, because I thought it was great. There was an open dialogue, and that's where it starts.
nice.
And so the employees were able to ask questions, but some of the questions that were asked were so archaic that I couldn't believe that people haven't heard or been made aware of, you know, like, I'll just throw one out there. This is hypothetically said, oh, hey, but what if me and, you know, so-and-so have been having, you know, we've been exchanging sexually natured text messages for a year. Now all of a sudden she says it's sexual harassment if I send her a dick pic. What's up with that?
Oh,
And so
put that as it. You're a fucking idiot.
I know, but he's basically saying she's been sending me, and this goes back to your consent can be withdrawn at any time. And I'm on board with you. I'm not being pro the guy's question. I'm just delivering it. But so he says, she's been sending me pictures of her tits for a year. I've been sending pictures of my balls. Now she says my balls aren't cool and I'm going to get in trouble if I send her another picture of my balls. What's up with, how is that cool?
Well, then it means she's done with your ass.
Yeah, first of all.
That's what it means.
Stop, yeah.
Like, take a hint. This is the problem. And, I mean, this is how, this is where I partially feel really badly for them because nobody teaches them how to take that kind of rejection well and move along.
It would save so much problems if people could learn to just cut it the fuck loose when things are done.
Yeah.
Right. She doesn't want pictures of your dick anymore. She said that to you. Your job is to respect her. And if you send another one, then she gets to report your ass because you didn't listen when she said no.
Yeah.
Did your mother never tell you no when you were little? Come on.
And no one should feel sorry for you at that point.
No.
That's just ridiculous.
Yes. Please. I don't need to feel bad for you because she said this was fine up until this point. Now it is no longer fine. That means it is your job to stop. If somebody's coming after you, the thing is if the tables were turned, men wouldn't know what to do. If women are pursuing men, and this does happen, we act all the time like this is only men who are pursuers in these things and perpetrators in this stuff, and they're not. Women can do it too. It's just less common. And men who are victims of this stuff don't feel like they get to say anything because all their dudes are but man, she's
right, quit being a pussy.
Take the pictures.
Yeah.
So it's not. It's you have to actually think about what it would be like to walk in their shoes for a few minutes, and you just have to learn. No means no, and the only thing that means yes is an enthusiastic yes, and learn how to just be gracious with a no.
Oh, sure.
Women don't owe men shit, but some of them seem to think that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that I've definitely seen that. I would say the majority you're going to see that is from guys, but you definitely see it from women too with guys. And what's hard about it, and I think you just touched on this if I'm not mistaken, is people have a hard time nowadays because we don't teach our kids how to lose anymore, that they can't be rejected. And I do put that a lot on parents because they don't allow their kids the feeling of losing something, which is the same as rejection. I think everyone needs to feel when you lose and feel what it feels like and know that you don't like it. And that goes for sports and for life.
Well, it's that pendulum swing
if you protect them though, and you never let your kids feel what it feels like to lose, you know,
and to lose and to be disappointed and to feel sad. If we are constantly trying to keep kids happy 24/7, 365, when are they ever going to learn to regulate their emotions?
When
are they ever going to learn that emotions are like a wave and they come and they go? You don't feel that wave forever.
And how are they going to learn that life's going to beat the shit out of you at different times?
Yeah.
Life doesn't give it two shits about who your parents were or or what kind of car you had or who you dated. It's definitely going to beat you down. And we try to make it a point together with our boys and our youngest gunner, he's in jiu-jitsu, and so he gets promoted with his belts when he does well. And when he's due for a promotion, and that's why I love his instructors and his coaches and professors in jiu-jitsu, is if his behavior is not good on a night that he's going to get promoted, he doesn't get promoted. And I support that fully.
Nice.
And you'll see some parents that they want their kid promoted on the nights they're supposed to. They shouldn't have to be disappointed. And I call that total, bullshit, because that's never going to happen in life. They need to know how bad that hurts and feels. And I don't think we should protect them all the time from feeling that, because you're going to feel that times 1,000, 100 times in your lifetime.
Absolutely. And I think it goes from everything from a job promotion to a date situation to a being a parent, and you're disappointed that your kids didn't do something. Like, it's never going to go away. You're going to be disappointed. You're going to be sad. You're going to be angry. You're going to be panicky. You're going to have, like, you have all these feelings all the time. Like, they don't just go away. You have to teach kids how to manage those. And if you don't do it, how are they supposed to learn?
Absolutely. Hey, I forgot about this one. I've got to ask you this because
Yes.
We both met this listener. She had a great question. She said, "Hiya. Question for Rachel.
Okay.
What is your opinion with our kids on safe sex practices in same sex, meaning girl on girl? Context if needed. My 12-year-old daughter had a friend over who identifies as bisexual, and the three of us were having a conversation about safe sex. And while they knew about condoms, they didn't know that there was a way to protect themselves or that they even should if it was just girls. I provided examples, dental dam, but where the fuck do you even buy that? And, plastic wrap. They were completely shocked, and it occurred to me that this never comes up. Even girls that identify as heterosexuals, such as myself, would benefit from this knowledge. You never know when the urge to experiment is going to strike, and it's best to be safe, always. Knowledge is power, which is how I presented it to my daughter." That's a great question.
Nicely done.
She writes very well.
But that's okay. That is, like, for me, because I've seen so many parents be so squirrely around this. The fact that she was even able to have that conversation with her 12-year-old, I'm so impressed.
Oh, I applaud her.
A lot of parents would have just blown that off and not bothered to have the conversation.
Oh, I agree 100%. And if you don't hear Brooke, our 4-year-old just came in half asleep and grabbed her. Obviously, he was either sleepwalking or wanted her to come and retuck him in bed. So it's me and you for a second.
No problem.
But yeah, let's dive. So how do you handle it? That's a tough one, man.
Well, I mean, I think she did it brilliantly, and I think part of what I appreciate is that she acknowledged she didn't have all the answers. So what that allows for them to explore some of those answers together. Like, I don't know where we buy that. Maybe we should look online. Maybe there's information that we could find. I wonder if there's a book on that. You've left the door that way wide open to say, this isn't something I'm familiar with, but I'm willing to learn too, because your safety is really important to me.
Sure.
And I think that allows for continued conversations and a kid who now knows that you're open to talking about what you know, but also finding out what you don't know.
Sure. And that kid, I would imagine, is going to have no problem if or when they possibly have their own sexual questions or issues that coming and talking to her down the road.
Right.
Because that could have been a crossroads, right, where she make or break her possible how much her kids will talk to her about their sex life, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think that this allows for just really good dialogue moving forward, because what she knows is that her mom's not squirrely around this stuff, which is a really big thing to know, because if kids think they're making their parents uncomfortable, I mean, some kids really get a kick out of that, but the truth is most of them, if they think their parents are uncomfortable with something, they sort of take that to be that there's a rule in our family that we don't talk about that.
Oh gosh, yes. That is definitely the old standard. 100%. I mean, I don't know how many times I've heard that from different parts of my family, and that doesn't make them bad, but that is how it was. It's like, oh yeah, come on. Nope. We don't even talk about that. And that should, but so to her question though, so is that it though? The saran wrap made me laugh just because it just sounds funny.
I wouldn't use that. I mean, I would recommend Dental Dam, and you should be able to get it. I mean, you can probably order it online, but you should be able to get it at any of your adult. The truth is, I'm not sure if like a Walgreens or a CVS would carry it, but they should. But otherwise, there's adult novelty shops, whatever they call them, where you live, depending. This may be a situation where normally I say, like, if kids are old enough to have sex, they're old enough to buy their own condoms. But at the same time, in a situation like this, if it's not available at a CVS and it does need to be purchased from an adult novelty store, then, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, somebody might need to help out with that. But I also think it's important to talk about, things like if we're talking female on female sex, then things like, are your nails clean? Are they smooth? Like, the last thing you want to do is cause scratches or places where there can be infections. So cleanliness is important in
for
a different
both parties,
way because it's
for everybody on both sides.
I mean, I think that's across the board, but nails, particularly like if you've got acrylics or you've got, other things that can sometimes, particularly not knowing where you get your, manicures done, stuff like that.
Sure.
But just being cautious and aware of, neat, safe, no sharp edges. Dental dam is good. I mean, and like I said, should be available, but they're not always. And knowing that even women who are only having sex with women can and should get tested. Know your own sexual health. It seems crazy to talk about that with younger ones, but you just don't know.
Well, so where are you at on having, especially girls at that age, vaccinated for HPV?
This is such a hard question. I'm still really torn, and I fully acknowledge that I'm in the middle on this one. Because, and the thing is HPV, like the HPV vaccine, they're recommending for boys too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And for me, I have that conversation with my doctor, and I make that conversation based on my own values. That's not something I would ever put on someone else. For me, I'm like, if there's a chance of preventing cervical cancer for my child, I think this is something that I probably need to have a good conversation with my doctor about. And I'm really lucky in the fact that, like, I know some pathologists and I know some doctors that I can have these conversations with, that I feel really comfortable having them with. But, like, I'm a vaccinator.
Yeah.
Like that.
Oh,
I
me
vaccinate
too.
my kids. Like, that's something that I do. But I also, I know that there are people who don't. And I know there are people who would never give their kids the HPV vaccine because it's so new and they don't feel like it's been tested enough. And, like, I don't have to live with those consequences. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't necessarily get to say, but I think it is a conversation every parent should be having with their pediatrician. And if you've got kids who are sexually active, they should be seeing an OBGYN.
Yeah.
For girls and boys, if they're sexually active, should be talking to their pediatricians, and, like, they should be able to have those conversations. Because most of the time, parents are marking on those sheets, are sexually active, and they're like, no, my kid's not sexually active. And I'm like, you should have that conversation with your kid before you mark that box.
Oh, 100%. And where I really applaud this listener, not only for her guts and all, just putting this out here so eloquently, but where I think it isn't fair, it's a double standard. That may be the definition, but we would have no problems talking to a 12-year-old boy about the birds and the bees. But what immediately caught my eye in this question, and this goes back to, me being, maybe a ignorant guy sometimes, and I acknowledge when I'm ignorant, and that's okay. I want to be better. But the first thing I think is, oh God, 12 years old talking about girl on girl sex. Like, in my head, I don't say this out loud, but I'm just willing to admit it, that in my head, that catches me first. Like, oh, that's too young to be talking about girl on girl sex. And I know that's not right, that it should be, if you're going to talk about sex, it's the same, whether it's guy, girl, guy, whatever. So I really applaud her for that. But that's where I think we all have a little work to go.
I think you're right. And I think your acknowledgement of the fact that that hits you differently than it would if it was, a 12-year-old boy, I think it says a lot about how we grew up. That wasn't something that was even talked about when we were 12. Like, parents weren't, at least not in my world, parents weren't having those conversations. Like, that wasn't something that was done. And a lot of people who are, look, we are in a heteronormative culture. Everything is based on the fact that the belief is being heterosexual is normal and expected and very often perceived as better. So the idea that you would talk to a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old girl about sex in itself is a little weird. People are like, oh my God, they're just babies. But they're not, because some of these little girls have been having periods since they were 10, and, their bodies are changing just like boys. And shockingly, the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that even preteen girls can have sexual desire just like preteen boys. Like, it's not male exclusive. And some kids know really young that they're attracted to the same sex. And that means you get to have those conversations across the board, regardless of gender. And, and to parents who are like assuming that their kids are going to be, I'm assuming my kid's going to be straight. Like,
sure.
That's my assumption.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's not an assumption I ever make of any teenager that comes in my office.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. I mean,
no, like, I look at those kids and I say, so do you have a partner?
Sure. Yeah.
Because I leave it gender neutral, because some of these kids have figured it out, and they have figured it out really early, and they're not even necessarily going to have to quote unquote experiment to figure it out. They know because it's okay. Their parents and society have sort of, it's okay if that's who you are. You can own that earlier. But that also means that parents have to sort of get educated around that. And for this particular mom, I don't have the list of maybe like resources. I don't have my computer available to me with that up and available, but I'll gladly like pull together a resource list that might be helpful for her, and you guys can send that to her.
Oh, beautiful.
Because, yeah, I mean, it's all about having the resources and where you go when you have questions and what websites are most helpful. And I'm perfectly willing to, like, see if I can locate some resources, and you guys can, because did she email you? Because if she emailed you, then I'll just email it to you guys and you can send it to her. Because I think that, like, A, props for asking what you don't know. B, props for admitting to your kid that you didn't know. And then how do we solve that? Let's find you some resources. So I'll double check with some people that I know to make sure the resources that I used that I had are currently like up to date and the best ones available. And I'll send those along, because it's the only way we're going to figure it out.
Boom. Awesome. Well, you got one too, babe, don't you? You got a question?
Well, I've got several over here.
Yeah.
Which one?
Well, you go ahead and fire one, because I just had a great Brooke just joined us again, so she's back.
I don't know if Randall told you our son woke up.
You'll have to listen back.
Oh, poor baby.
She missed the fascinating question, but you'll listen back.
I will listen back. Yeah, my sweet little angel woke up and came out here. He said, "Is it wake up time yet?"
Oh, baby.
I know, and I think it's because I left the hall light on, and if he wakes up and he sees the light like under his door, he thinks it's time to get up. Like he was so confused. He got very upset. I want to wake up. So yeah, mommy had to lay down with him for a minute, and I'm back.
Don't worry, we held down the fort. It was okay.
Yeah, I have full confidence. But like,
because Randall and I have a really hard time chit-chatting.
I know, right? Neither one of you likes to talk. All right, so I have like a stack of questions here. Let me pick. So okay. I might be switching gears. I don't even know. But
no, you're good. What
is the most mutually beneficial toy for a couple to bring into the bedroom?
Oh, see, this gets tricky because so much of it depends on what you both like.
Right. Makes sense.
There are some cock rings that are available that have vibrators attached to them.
Wow.
Which can be great or weird depending on the way the bullet is situated on the cock ring, because if it's just really sort of flush base at the base of the penis, then it doesn't hit your clitoris, because that's not where it is.
Yeah.
if we're
I guess I never even knew the purpose of a cock ring, if I'm being totally honest. I thought it was for the guy.
Isn't it to keep it hard?
Okay.
It will. And so here's the thing.
But there's little attachments and stuff on it that you can get for.
Yeah, like you can buy a cock ring that has a vibrator sort of on the front end of it. So you would, one of two things, that you can either use a cock ring and place it just directly to the base of the penis, or you can like pull the entire ball sack up and through.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're going to do that one, I would recommend getting sort of like the jelly style, really stretchy ones. But what those do is they can help you last a little longer because they restrict the blood flow. Like once it's up and hard, then it sort of keeps it that way a little bit longer. And I'm not a man, so I don't know, but I've been told by men that I know that orgasms are a little more intense with that. So that can be fun. And if you can get the one that has what's the word I'm looking for? Like a vertical bullet style vibrator on the top of it, like at the front of it, then you can, he's inside. There's it as on the, there it is at the top. It should be long enough to hit your clitoris. But some of those, if you buy them, it will depend on everybody's size and arrangements, and they don't all work brilliantly. But that's something that would work maybe for both of you. Most often toys are brought in because the goal seems to be to get women to orgasm faster. Yeah. So that would be my other question. Is like, we always take way longer. Well, because there's this sort of story about how women take like 20 minutes and guys take like 3. It's not true for all women. No. Like, some women can orgasm in 30 seconds. Give them a vibrator. It barely takes that long. Right. But so it really does, like, the best toy, quote unquote, is really sort of what's your goal. But that's one that I used to sell pretty regularly, like, as a couple's toy. I might even look to see if I can find the exact one I used to sell all the time, because I had a preferred one. If I can find the link, maybe I'll
well, I've got a great question for you on this conversation, because we've had it before asked, but we hadn't found you yet to get your insight. But a listener had wrote in that there was a husband, and he said that his wife and him had talked, and he had agreed to let a dildo come into the bedroom. And I heard this question. Yeah. And then he was all weirded out because it was bigger than him. Yeah, it was bigger than him, and it sounded like maybe she started to enjoy the dildo a little more than him. And
well, didn't Muddy give an answer about that one?
Muddy did. And I thought his answer was good on that one.
His answer was really good.
He said,
he gave a really solid response, because he's like, you better you're gonna have to like figure out how to enjoy it, or you're going to have a conversation. And
as long as she still wants yours, which if you're,
Well, the best part was how he ended it. He said, how often do you get to say that you get to double team your wife?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
But I would, I would imagine
you're not alone in that. You'd be surprised at some of the rules that I have heard that couples have about their toys.
Like you can't use it when I'm not there or something.
You can't buy one that's bigger than me.
Oh, gosh.
See, I told you that was a real thing, I bet.
People have
all rules. Toys are going to be bigger than your average guys, right? For them, or no?
Not all, but lots of them are.
Are there women that are like, hey, I want the average white guy dick
I
dildo.
Want this. My husband is very jealous. I want the smallest cock you've got.
Well, there are also ones that I've had women come to me and say, my husband's totally okay if I get a vibrator, but it's not. He doesn't want it to look like a penis. And I'm like, which is fine, because lots of them really don't really look like penises. They look like
cucumbers.
Anything else. Some of them look like rabbits. Some of them have little smiley faces on them. Some of them have like all kinds of. Because they're not actually supposed to be sold as sex toys. They're adult novelty, because the way the market runs around that. But this is what I say about sex toys in general for couples is, if you can do it together, that's really cool, because what that allows is for a conversation to take place instead of just, oh, look what I bought for us, when really, like, they didn't have anything to say about it. I say this to men, too. Just do not go buy your wife a vibrator because you heard they're really great, because not all women like the same vibrators. Like,
and not all women are comfortable with
they may just not want a vibrator.
Yeah.
And some women need lower vibration than others, and some like it really intense, and some these are conversations to have before you go buy one for either of you. And I mean, I did know one guy who was a little neurotic, and he would take her batteries with him to work.
Holy shit.
Wow.
I'm like, dude, control. There's a store over there, right? You can just go buy more. But so some people get neurotic about it. And actually, in all honesty, for this guy who wrote the question, I'm glad you actually said something, because a lot of guys would just sit with that and get all weird and jealous about it and freak out and destroy their relationship around it without just asking somebody if it's normal.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, if you can use it together, I'm a person who believes that sex toys can actually completely enhance your relationship if there's something that you do together. I also don't have any issues with women who use them to masturbate, because the truth is the best way to get to know your body and to learn like how you best orgasm is through masturbation. Like that's the best way to figure it out. And so,
right, because if you can figure it out how to do it for yourself, you know what to tell him to do.
yes.
Well, you know, my motto, my mantra was always, I'm the best I've ever had.
Right. That's
great.
everybody's.
Yeah. And if you don't,
yes.
if you don't know that, then, you know, you haven't
Right.
jerked yourself off enough.
Exactly.
But we had a question
you should
too.
know, slower, faster. You know.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You may have heard this one too then about the guy or the wife that, wasn't it a wife that wrote in about if her husband jerking off is cheating?
Oh, yeah. We asked
Oh
her about
my
that last
God.
time, I thought.
Did we ask you that too, Rachel?
I think we mentioned it last week because we were talking about cheating in general. And,
Yeah.
and
Yes,
that's where
you're
I
right.
think where we got to that conversation around.
Yeah.
That's what you guys have to decide. Like as a couple, you have to figure out if that's like, what's your line for cheating? Because some people, masturbation is not allowed.
Yeah.
And like, that's not mine to judge. I'm sort of curious about where you came to that decision and how you came to that decision and where, like, how that's working for you or not working for you. But if women are if women are struggling with orgasm, then I'm like, masturbation is one of the fastest ways to help work through that. But also sex toys are incredibly helpful. Vibrators are helpful. But sometimes you have to try a couple and you gotta, and somebody will go pick up like a $9 bullet. How do you think you can even buy them at Walgreens these days?
Yeah.
Like go pick them up from the local drugstore. But like there are toys that are better at helping women orgasm than others and ways to sort of test that out. So and this is what I try to tell men about sex toys in general, is that the thing that they almost always guarantee you is that you're not leaving your wife hanging.
Oh,
So
boom.
if you were a
I
little
agree
quick on
with
the
that.
draw today, like, and it happens to the best of us, like sometimes it's a little quick and sometimes women just take a little longer or
I'm guilty.
yes,
On
it just
occasion.
happens. So then pull out the vibrator and help her real quick and get done. Like, go along. Like, and then you're never the guy who just rolled over and went to sleep.
Oh, God, yes, because that is a horrible guy to be. And girls, especially amongst each other and girlfriends,
As
they will throw those guys under the bus in a heartbeat.
you believe that he took like 5 minutes, he was done, rolled over, went to
Right.
sleep, and I'm just laying there going, excuse me,
Yeah, that's fucked up. Well, that leads...
but it happens.
That goes, this question, and, I've always said I'm going to ask you everything that's
The way
sent
they
in.
write it.
And I can't even read it exactly how it's written because it makes me feel
Oh.
weird. But
Okay.
Well, then.
so you'll know the proper wording though, because I'm going to change the words.
Okay.
Why do so many women dislike being booby banged?
Oh,
But-
I meant to ask you why you didn't get to that question last week.
Yeah.
Well, for starters, I'm not really sure what we're supposed to get out of it.
Exactly. Why
Well, that's
the
what I
fuck would we
figured,
like
but
it?
I've never asked that question. I'm going to be honest. I've wondered it though.
But because
Not why do they hate it, but what is the whiffum? What's in it for
there
you?
is no, and the guys that like to do that don't give a fuck about what the girl's getting out of it because
Well, at that point, couldn't you just tell him to go like fuck 2 pillowcases or something, like lube them up and
I mean, lube up lube
Yeah.
up 2 watermelons
Exactly.
or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, there has to be... I mean, look, can it be part of, like, foreplay and the whole... and, like, in sex in general? Yeah, like, I don't think it doesn't have a place. I
Right.
think it needs to be a conversation because, A, like, how tightly are you squeezing her tits, by the way? Like, because
Yeah.
maybe it's just not comfortable.
Yeah,
And
what if
you
it
don't have
hurts?
a good lube... you're just causing a nice big old skin rash between my boobs.
Well, and if
by the
you're
way.
somebody that's built like I am with like, you know, not a whole lot upstairs.
Exactly. Same.
Then there's, I mean, then it's like, what's the point?
Well, then you're pushing together with all of your might.
And it's really, I'm just giving you a hand job with my boobs there on the side. Because I'm.
Yes, exactly. And it's not like, and let's be real, it's not like any guy's like able to like do that and play with her tits and like keep her turned on in the process. No. Like you're not kissing her while that's happening. It is strictly all about you, and she's making a mental laundry list in her head.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've always wondered what's going on in girls' heads when they're being booby banged. Like, this sucks.
Here's what we're thinking. Shit, I forgot to get milk for morning.
This is the worst.
Yep. I have 3 loads of laundry to do. I need to put gas in the car after I drop the kids off at school.
I would rather be sleeping.
Right.
Well, so how frustrating could that be if, you know, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but if you're sitting there and everything's going great, everybody's, you know, in sync, we're all feeling great, everybody's on the proper projection to climax. And then the guy jumps and puts his wiener between your tits. You would lose your place, right?
For
like
sure.
you could easily just be like, well, now I'm 5 minutes behind, or fuck me, right? Just fuck
that's
my
exactly
orgasm.
what it sounds like. If somebody did that, that's what I'd be like. Well, shit. Obviously,
I'd be like, obviously, I'll be pulling my vibrator out of the drawer in 5 minutes.
I'll just take care of myself then.
And that leads me to this question. Godly, I have a lot of questions. But I've talked about it before. There's a power of tits. Tits have a power. And they're so powerful. I mean, Brooks talked about it openly on our show a lot, that she knows she can come in and put her boobs on me. I could be in the worst mood on earth. If she pulls her boobs out, I'm like, oh man, this is fantastic. Life's good again. But if she's in a bad mood and I walk in and like bulldog my nuts in her face, she's not going to be in a better mood.
No.
They have no value.
To get out of her face.
Yeah, they have absolutely no value. What is it that makes the tits so powerful?
I wish I had an answer for that one, because I don't know. I joke about it all the time. Like, men can come in and like walk past us half naked, and we're like, if we're in the mood, we're in the mood, and that's totally fine. And sometimes we can get a little bit of a turn on for that. But even just you knowing we're naked in the shower in the next room, for a lot of men, that's all it takes.
100%. Just knowing that you might be nude.
Right.
Yeah.
Or that it's coming later that you're going to be
later. Or like we walked out in a bra and panties just to get our dress out of the dryer. And they're like, ooh, like half naked.
Yeah.
I can't explain what that is. Except for the fact that there is this thing. So there's a conversation around like what sexual desire is, and that it's not really a drive the way that like food and sleep are, because you're not going to die if you don't have sex, right? Like, it's not going to happen. It feels like you might, but I promise you not. You know, but there is sort of this thing about like there's different kinds of desire. They're like spontaneous desire, where like you're walking down the street and it sort of hits you like a lightning bolt, like, ooh, sex right now sounds really good. Where can I get some? Like, or saw a pair of boobs. Holy crap, I need to have sex now. Like, it's like almost instantaneous, right? Like, it happens, like you go from 0 to turned on in like 3.5 seconds. There's also another type of desire that's called responsive desire. And that's more about like, I'm not really thinking about sex, but all of a sudden somebody's like snuggled next to you and they're like rubbing your leg and you're like snuggled and you're like, oh, maybe I could do that.
Yeah, I could get my fuck on tonight. It's more like responding
to the environment because it's been set up for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, how much of it do you think...
The brakes have been taken off, so to speak.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
How much... Like, a lot of me thinks, though, that also, and I'm sure you probably both agree, that tits are just easy to look at. They're nice on the eyes in comparison to a fucking gross-looking cock.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, if we're being really honest, like, women are pretty.
Oh, 100%. And everyone would... I think anyone that's honest would agree that...
All the parts are prettier.
Every person, if you just walk by and there's a naked woman, doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, can openly acknowledge, man, that is a pretty woman, and those are beautiful tits, guys and girls. But
yeah, lots of times. I mean, some women will not go there, but many of us
in
are
their
like,
head they're thinking it though. I bet, like, oh, that's it. But there are
here's
some,
the thing.
yeah.
Women don't dress for men. We dress for other women because we appreciate other women who put in that kind of effort.
And the
sure.
makeup and everything. Oh, yeah, that's always for, I mean.
Oh, I would agree with that.
Absolutely.
And it's just, like, a dick pic just doesn't do much most of the time. I'm not saying it never does. Like, if you've sort of primed the pump, then we've kind of gotten things going there, and, like, your spouse is, like, on a business trip, or, like, sometimes that can feel, sure, why not? But, like, just a dick pic out of the blue?
Yeah.
Really, dick pics are just funny. Like, they're almost gross and funny. Like, such a bad decision on everyone's part. But, you can get a picture of some, any girl's tits, and it doesn't matter who you are. You'd be like, oh, man, those are cool tits.
Those are nice boobs.
But,
I'm like, they're nice.
If you get a dick pic, you're immediately going to be like, what the fuck is wrong with that guy? What a sick fucker.
So is there any like psychological, I was asking Randall this the other day and I might just be overthinking it. Is there any kind of like psychological connection to guys that were breastfed versus guys that were not, if they have like...
Considering that most sex research has been done by men, somebody's probably done the study, but I haven't read it. I should look for that one because I'm not sure. It would sort of make logical sense if I'm thinking about it. Like, just as an average person.
Right.
Or that's sort of the natural, like, biological tendency is, like, they're just, they've been attached to boobs from the moment they were born.
Right. I was like, is Gunnar going to be more of an ass man because he wasn't breastfed?
That's a really good question, right? But honestly, most sex research is done by men, so somebody's probably done it. Like, I just have to go find the right research channel to find it in, because somebody's probably done the research.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things that everybody has sort of their own theories about it, but I don't know if the scientific community has decided to pull that out.
Yeah.
But really, honestly, if we go back to the original question of, like, why don't women like it? Why would we?
That's a fair answer.
To me what's in it for us?
Right.
So unless you're making it super great for me, like I know that afterwards you're going to go down on me and we're going to have a different conversation in a few minutes. Okay, maybe I can stay engaged at that point.
Sure.
But if I know that that's your way to, like, end it quickly, then I'm not really sure what I'm getting out of that deal. And here's the other thing. Here's the thing I will say about this. I'm not someone who believes that all sex needs to be about orgasms. Like, it doesn't have to be. Like, sex can be lots of things. It doesn't always have to be about, ejaculation and orgasm. Like, it just doesn't have to be. But that needs to be discussed. Like, both parties need to know what the expectation is around the encounter. Like, if your plan was for us just to, like, have a little fun, or it was just going to be a quickie and we knew I was going to take care of you and you'd take care of me later, or I'll take care of myself, then fine. But to use that as, like, your last, like, dude, you really left her hanging. Like, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, totally agree.
What, don't you have another one, babe? You have another question in your pile? Because I've kind of covered two of mine, but I want to get to one, but I want to let you ask yours first.
I don't.
Well, I wanted to ask you what you thought of the. Have you heard about Morgan Freeman?
Yeah.
And his, a pretty large amount of women have come out. Have you seen the video that was put out that kind of showed his behavior and some of his press junkets?
No, I haven't.
And I'm full disclosure here because I'm a guy, and my goal in all this is to make guys start having this conversation with themselves. So that's why I'm kind of being the sacrificial lamb. When I know I'm being ignorant, I'm being honest about it. It's not to be a hero, but I'm trying to really help to get this all talked about. When
I think it's the only way we get somewhere.
When it first came out, my first thought was, no way, that's Morgan Freeman.
Right.
So, and then my second thought was, well, God, nowadays you never know with these guys. Then they released the video. And it was of him at separate press junkets for different movies over the years. and he's talking to these girls, these women. And you know, the women that do the interviews at press junkets for movies are usually entry level with their whatever company they're with, or newspaper or magazine. That's their first like big deal, right? Like, oh, I'm getting to interview Morgan Freeman for 3 minutes when it's my turn in line at this press junket for Bruce Almighty. And so these women are sitting down. They come into the room and it's just them and him. And
you had to use that movie where he was God.
Yeah.
I mean, I can. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a very pretty woman, and she walks in, sits down, you know, introduces herself, and the first words out of his mouth were, you know, my God, have you looked at you? And so that's creepy in itself.
Gross.
And then,
Yes.
and she does her best job of like, oh, you know, thank you, no, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So then she sits down, and he's like, no, seriously, you're gorgeous. So that she brushes that off. Then he says, no, do you fool around with older guys? These are his words, and it's on video.
Oh my God.
And it took me seeing that, and this is how dumb I am, for it to really click in my head where I was like, man, that is fucked up. Because, you know, you tend to think like, oh, you know, there's back and forth when you're at a bar, or, you know, you're trying to court somebody, and, you know, we've all probably said inappropriate shit in that situation. But in this press junket situation, he is the successful actor that can make or break her career. She's the new reporter. What the fuck is she going to do if she shits all over and walks out of her big shot interview? She's fucked with her employer and everybody. Well, yeah, this was, you know, years ago. And even if it's today, that pressure is probably huge because she doesn't want to lose the Morgan Freeman interview. So it really made me see.
Do you want to be the person who throws Morgan Freeman under the bus?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. But it really opened my eyes to how fucked up and that's nothing physical. That was all words.
But that right there, and I told Randall when he brought that, because I didn't even know about that. He's the one that stays on top of all this pop culture media stuff. And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I was like, you know what though? I can't even count how many times I've been in a situation like that in my life.
Right.
Can't even, I don't know if maybe, there's plenty of times where I probably should have said something and did, because I'm just like, whatever. But I'm like, you know what? He didn't he didn't touch me.
Right.
I started to kind of make excuses for him because I did it for so many years in my head that it's fine. It's fine because but in reality, I need to be more, it's not fine. Even though he's not touching you or doing anything, it still makes you feel uncomfortable.
Right.
And that's not okay.
Well, and here's where it ties back to what Rachel said last week. And I saw this in between the last time Rachel was on. So I've been kind of aligning to the stuff she said. And what really got me is Morgan Freeman released an apology, of course, immediately.
Of course.
And his apology was, sure, I've acted inappropriately. My goal has always been to make women and feel comfortable, all the bullshit excuse. But then he said, but I have never, ever created an environment a work environment that makes a woman feel like, her employment or anything is at stake. Somewhere, don't quote me on that, but that was the gist of it. And that's bullshit. There's proof right there. He may not have been her boss in her company, but he was her boss because he's the big interview.
And he's the one who could make or break her career.
Absolutely.
How does she go back to her job and say, Morgan Freeman was inappropriate, so I left and didn't do my job.
And honestly, maybe devil's advocate, maybe that wasn't his intention ever to try and be, but he was for sure
he was
doing
oblivious
it
to the fact that was inappropriate.
Right. Exactly.
You thought that it was okay for not just once, 3 times to say something that you don't know this girl. You don't get to talk about how good looking she is. It's not really your place.
Well,
she's there to do a job.
And they all have to know now, right? That these celebrities have to understand the fact that they are the one that holds the most power,
Yep.
employment wise and all that, no matter what. That's not fair for him for them to pretend. We see this with Ben Affleck. I mean, I can't imagine what these girls or women reporters at junkets, when they're in this isolated little room one-on-one for 5 minutes with these actors and, dirty dick bastards, how many times they leave with the heebie-jeebies like, good God, that was gross as shit. And I looked up to Morgan Freeman. Like, she may have loved him.
Same. I was heartbroken. Not shocked at all, because as I said last week, I think almost all men have and do this because no one's really explained to them why it's a problem and that they're not supposed to do this. Society's told them that it's fine. Like, women are there to be stared at, commented on, made to feel like that's totally, we're supposed to be flattered by that, don't you know? Like,
exactly.
that's how that's supposed to work.
Yes, it's supposed to be flattering. And he's such an old fuck that I guarantee you that's what was going on in his head, was that like, I'm making this chick's day.
Right. And not even aware of the fact that she's so uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Well, you could see it in her face.
Well, yeah, I mean, but he's oblivious. He's thinking, oh, I'm just making her day, thinking that she, I'm such a big star, thinking she's, that she's pretty, never thinking that she.
Well, if she would have said,
looking for the door. If
she would have said, oh, I do fool around with older men, he would have been like, okay, well,
here's where you should meet me.
Exactly.
My driver will pick you up.
Because that's the equivalent of saying, hey, you want to fuck? Oh, I'm kidding, unless you want to.
Right.
I'm kidding. Exactly. I'm kidding. Serious. I'm kidding. Unless you want to fuck.
Which has been said to me before.
Everyone has said it.
Yes.
Hey, you want to get it on? I'm kidding. Stop. You stop it.
Unless you want to.
Let's fuck. I mean, I'm kidding.
Song?
Yeah.
Isn't there a Nelly song with that in there?
Absolutely there is.
Yes.
Yes, there is.
Unless you're going to do it.
Unless you,
just kidding.
I'm kidding like Jason.
Unless you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Unless you're gonna
Jason
do it.
Kidd, the basketball player, said, I'm kidding like Jason. Unless you want to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so this is the whole thing. Like, it's so much about, so as much as this breaks my heart, I'm not surprised. Why wouldn't he be like everyone else? He was still raised in this culture. He was still put up on a pedestal to believe that he is entitled to all of these things and to talk however he wants to do. It doesn't mean, and here's the other thing about this. I don't believe that all men who have done something inappropriate are bad people. Like, that's not what this equates to. What it equates to is a lack of understanding and awareness that it's not appropriate. You have a position of power. You use that to manipulate women into getting what you want. Like, I'm not saying you're an awful person and that we should now despise him. I mean, it doesn't sound like he's Harvey Weinstein quite
or
material.
Bill Cosby.
But at the same time, it's still not okay. And you need to check yourself. And that's not an apology, by the way.
Right.
Oh, no. If you shift any of the blame, and that goes in, that was exactly what I was about to ask. Can you think of anyone, though, and we'll just stick with the men since we're talking about this, that has navigated being exposed properly yet?
Hang on, there is somebody. Fuck.
I know. I'm feeling like the same thing. I'm like, wasn't there somebody? Well, I think, Aziz Ansari has dropped off the face of the earth for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he handled it really well either. There was a conversation about whether or not Louis C.K. handled it well, and I don't think he handled it well either.
He just disappeared too, and
right, and so there's a blanket apology. Maybe was he the one who said, I still have something to learn?
Yes.
I'm still learning.
He said, I'm going to step away and listen for a while.
Yes, that's what it was. And do I think that was great? No. Do I think it was better than some? Maybe. But no, to my knowledge, I've not seen anyone who's been accused come forward and say, I didn't understand. I obviously fucked up. I obviously need to sit down and take stock of myself and my actions and my attitudes around this. And I will moving forward, I will change my behaviors and I will work to make reparations to the women I've hurt. Like this is like an apology has multiple parts, by the way. It is, I recognize what I did was wrong. I apologize for hurting you. I will change my behavior. How do I make it up to you? And I will change my behavior moving forward.
So,
like,
yeah, and like contribute to the cause of,
right.
Yeah, because I think the person I was thinking of making a comeback from one of these things was not related to this subject at all, but Michael Vick. So, like, yeah, I mean, he did unspeakable, awful, terrible things, and I wanted him to fucking burn on the stake. But he went to jail and served his time
excessively,
and he went to jail for like 4 years.
Yeah, he was made an example of.
They made an example of him, but when he got out of jail, I mean, like, I totally forgave him because he was like giving money to like going and speaking places for kids and like trying to be like, hey, this is I'm fucked up and I did terrible things. And nobody should ever do these kind of things, and like giving money to animal organizations and like really trying to show that he was sorry, not just say that he was sorry.
That's a perfect point. He steered into it is what he did instead of steering out of it. And that's the only time I think blame. Apologies are authentic is when people are willing to take the uncomfortable, tough punches that are going to come at them, not run from them, not tuck their tail and hide from them. And nobody does that. That's what, like James Franco, he's obviously a pretty big scumbag, but his apology particularly stuck out to me because it was so shitty, because he was so pro Me Too. Like he was the first guy that he was all over it.
What was he like? But they were sluts.
Well, he was wearing the pin, but this was almost verbatim. He said, while all women should be heard, and I think all of my accusers should be heard, they're full of shit whores. Exactly. Have a good day.
I nailed it. I didn't even know what his apology was.
That's basically said. That's almost what he said, except for not called them whores. But he said they should be heard, but they're full of shit.
Right. But they're liars.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
And you're supposed to believe me.
Man.
And the thing is you have to be specific. Like, if you're apologizing for something, you have to be specific. I apologize for this thing that I did.
For this exact thing that I did. And yes, exactly.
Like, this is the thing that I did. I did this thing. How can I make it up to you? This is how I will change my behavior moving forward, and reparations are made. Like, this idea that you can just be like, I'm really sorry to any of the women I've ever offended.
But and when all they do is say that, to me, all it says is, you're not fucking sorry. You're sorry you got caught, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
You're not really sorry, but you're forced to make this apology because you got caught. Because if you were really sorry, you wouldn't have done it. And even right after you did, you wouldn't.
I'll even give you, I didn't understand that what I was doing was problematic. I didn't understand that I was part of the problem. I thought I was a nice guy. I see now why the things that I did hurt you, made you uncomfortable, scared you. I understand that I misused my power. Like, I will, moving forward, change my behaviors. I will become more aware. I will read up on this. How can I make it up to you? Like, this is not, like, it's not that hard. But it means you have to look in the mirror, going back to, Buddy's point earlier tonight. Like, look in the mirror. Yep. We all have things we have to do that for. But because we run around with this sort of concept of like, but I'm a nice guy.
Right.
I don't do those things. I'm a nice guy. Like, I get screwed over because I'm the nice guy.
Just because you keep telling yourself that doesn't mean,
Well, maybe if I associate with enough women causes, it will make me not a dick to women like I have been my whole life, which is what I felt like James Franco did. He aligned as hard as he could with Me Too, not realizing that, his past was going to come up.
Or he was probably like, woo, I am a scumbag. Let me align with this.
But wouldn't you respect more, Rachel? And for me, this is just the way I am. I'm all for second chances, third chances.
Yep.
I love a good redemption story. But
Me too.
I love people that steer into their shit, right?
But you got to own up to
Yes.
it. Yeah.
And so it's almost, to me, in this day and age, every guy that's got something in their closet, a past with, that's a celebrity, we'll just start with them because they're under the microscope.
Yeah.
It would literally be better, I would think, to just, if they're ever in an interview and they're discussing Me Too, to be forthright and be like, you know what? I know for a fact I've been a dick to women in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's happened. I'm not going to say their names because that's not fair to them.
Right.
But
that's their story to tell.
That's their story to tell. But I'm okay with telling you that I want to learn. I want to be better. I don't want to be one of the guys that makes this worse. But I don't want you looking at me thinking that I've never been inappropriate to a woman because I know I have.
Right.
Wouldn't everybody still be cool with him and be like, you know what? You can still be on our team because we get it.
Yeah, let's
absolutely.
We'll help you. We'll help you figure out how to be different and better moving forward. And if you can just say, like, I know that I've done things that, looking back, I realize now were wrong and hurtful and damaging to people. And if you know who those people, and I would say this even for average guys, like, if you know you were really hurtful to someone, write a letter. Because, and the reason I say write a letter and not send to Facebook and not like do it, if you know where this person is or know how to get them a letter, write them a letter and say, I've really been doing a lot of thinking, particularly around the Me Too movement, and I realized that, our interaction at such and such on such and such a day, I behaved inappropriately. I am sorry. I'm really working on, on doing this better, and I really learned, looking back, I learned a lot from that. I wanted you to know I'm sorry that I hurt you, and I'm sorry that I didn't understand, and I'm sorry if this has been damaging in your life in some way. And leave it alone.
Yeah.
Like, don't go track them down, don't go do those things. But an apology like that, like, if this really makes men stop and think and, like, sit in their stuff for a little bit, and there are specific instances that when this comes up, you get really uncomfortable around, like, maybe you owe somebody an apology.
Oh, for sure.
But nobody wants to do that.
No. Yeah,
like,
they don't.
that's like, oh my God, why would I own something that someone hasn't accused me of? But part of why you do that is because it clears some of your own stuff, but it also means that this is actually getting to you. Like, it means you're starting to understand that things were a problem. And I don't know, like, I'm thinking some of the men that I've known in my life, like, I'd be really okay with that, actually. Like, if you sent me a letter that said, Rachel, I know this thing, whether it was high school or a work environment.
I would be more than okay with that, because I guarantee you, I remember.
Yep. Like, Brooke, you probably have all of these instances running through in your head. Like,
there's like a catalog. Yeah, like that. Yeah. And I mean, it's not like I think about it all the time, but if the subject ever comes up, I'm like, yeah, I mean,
well, I'm sure that you also ear tag, or what's it called, earmark those guys for life, to where if you run into them, the first thing that comes up is, this guy's a creepy dick. As soon as they walk in the room, right?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And those are the same ones. Like I live in a pretty small town, and I've lived here for a long time. I went to high school here, or whatever. Those are the same ones that if I run into them anywhere, I'm not introducing them to my daughter.
Oh, sure.
God, right. Exactly. See, I've moved around so much that it's not really a problem for me. But I didn't even think about that. Like, I don't, it never, those kind of people for me, I never would run into with my son, but yes, exactly. I would be like, whoop, we're going to avoid that person and not go talk to them.
We're going to look down, and we're going to walk around the corner, and we're going to pretend like we didn't see that person.
Yeah,
trying to make eye contact with me right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you anywhere around my kid. My daughter looks just like me. Like, no.
God. Ooh. Yeah. Because you think like, oh my God, what if they said something creepy to her? And hell no.
Yeah.
and
by
I
the
don't
way,
even want that awkward, like, wow, you look just like your mom. And,
ew.
Like, doing the creepy double take thing.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah,
but keep your creepy ass over there. Yes. I know that she looks just like me, and I know she also looks like she's 5 to 7 years older than she is, and I look younger than I am. So get that creepy shit out of your head.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's a whole nother level.
I've got to flip the script on you guys for our last question, because this last question is from me, and it's for both of you guys. I want to get your opinion.
Oh, no.
And this one, I mean, Brooke will know when I say it, though, that this has always been one that touches a nerve with me. So we may not agree, and that's okay if you guys don't agree with me.
I still like you, Randall.
I'm highly passionate about when they have false accusations made about them, whether it's a false rape claim. I've got personal experience, not with me, but I do have a friend that was falsely accused of rape and was found, the false accuser was found to have acknowledged that they made up the story. And his instance isn't as bad, but I mean, just a year ago, I wrote a thing on Facebook about that case in California,
right,
where a girl had accused her professor of rape, and he was immediately put on administrative leave, and then eventually he was let go or forced to resign. Went to trial. They, his attorneys, of course, immediately had her story straightened out, and she admitted she made the whole thing up because she didn't like her grade.
But his life was ruined now.
But he was was going to go to jail for 20 to 30 years. That was the minimum standard. That was no matter what, he was going to go to jail for 20, 30 years. So they got her for filing a false police report. What
was her sentence?
She did 2 weeks in jail.
Oh my God.
And I'm not saying that, I know that women should be able to, they shouldn't be afraid to press charges, bring these things to light. I'm not saying that because I support that all the times. But that is some old bullshit to me, that if you're found to have made that up, you should be found guilty of whatever amount of time you put at that guy at risk of losing his life.
20 to 30 years.
She should have went to jail for 20 to 30 years, in my opinion.
So I have experience on the other end of that, except that it's a domestic violence allegation against someone that I know. And as a survivor, there is almost nothing I despise more than women who use that.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Because women who make false allegations make it really, really difficult for women like me.
Exactly. That's my whole point. That's my whole point. People think I'm beating on women when I say that. It's not beating on women. It kills the ones that really were raped.
Yeah.
Right. But so here is where I will make this about statistics. And yes, that depersonalizes it a little bit. And yes, that means that there's some collateral damage that but for domestic violence allegations, and I don't have the rape allegations numbers, but for domestic violence allegations, 2% end up, 2 to 5% is the percentage that end up being false allegations. I am not willing to err on the side of 2 to 5%.
Oh, sure. Of course not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect you to.
So for me, that's where I lead that. But I'm aware. I'm aware that people do it. But if the percentage is anywhere, and let's even say 2 to 10%.
Sure.
So to me, what that says is that we need to err on the side of believing victims and survivors.
Oh, of course, because 90%.
Versus automatically assuming that, people make false allegations. And that's people said that to me. People said that to me about my ex-husband because he's from the community and everybody knows who he is. And Rachel, he would never. Oh, but he did. And you didn't live in our house. And so you don't know. And I understand why you don't want to believe me, but that's not my problem. That's yours. And I never, I didn't go to the police. I didn't do lots of things that I could have and should have done looking back. And so for me, yes, for that professor, my heart breaks for him. For the person that I know who almost lost their military career because of a false allegation, my heart breaks for that. And I'm furious because you make it harder for the women who actually are trying to, to do the right thing and to hold people accountable for their actions. And when you ruin people's lives because you don't want to take responsibility for your own shit, that infuriates. But I also am aware that statistically those numbers are low, but those are the cases that get sensationalized.
Sure.
like, well, we have, hundreds of thousands of rape kits that are never even run, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, like for that professor, like, it's awful and it should never happen. And should she have gotten more than a slap on the wrist? Yeah, absolutely. But what happens for me and where I get really concerned is that I see that used as a reason to question every survivor who ever comes forward.
Oh, yeah, and I don't agree with that. I don't want to make it sound like that's what I'm saying, because
Right.
I'm absolutely not.
But when it's found
But when
that
it's-
they
when
are
they
blatantly lied,
acknowledge-
Yeah, don't use that. Like, just don't even, like, what is wrong with you? Like,
Right.
what is wrong with you? Like, what, like, and for me, I'm thinking, what, are you a child? Like,
Well, for
children
sure,
play
yeah.
vindictive games like that and
Yeah.
fuck up people's
Yeah,
lives. Like,
2 weeks in
I'm
jail
a-
though to me is just it's disgusting that that guy probably lost his job, his family, like his life was
Well,
literally
I mean-
ruined.
if he was a tenured professor and like getting tenure back anywhere else is going to be almost impossible. Like, I mean, yeah, it's so not cool. And coming back from those types of allegations it's really difficult.
Right.
It can be
And so,
impossible once
what are you gonna do?
that is slapped on your name,
Yeah.
and that goes both, for anybody
Yeah.
with, and that's why I think we, of course, always support the women that come forward 100%. Is, you can't put a stigma on them in the same way that with a man, if he's accused of rape or just even discussed, that is in your file forever.
Yeah, but I'll play a little devil's advocate for you on that, because
Except for Kobe Bryant. People seem to forget that he had,
Kobe Bryant.
his case, and I don't know why I just switched gears on you, but I thought about it.
No, you're fine.
with him. I mean, that one was so strange because even the woman's testimony was it was so brutal and all the details about it, and he was pretty much unscathed. You just rarely see that. Usually, it's an issue. I mean, you got
here's what the difference is. I can tell you what the difference is. Who walks away unscathed? People with money.
Yeah, no, that's
the average working person in America doesn't, because they can't recover from that kind of stuff because they didn't pay a lawyer and a PR firm and whoever else they needed to pay
Mark
to get that
Garagos.
stuff taken care of. Right. If you're just average Joe plumber down the road, like, your whole business tanks.
Sure, yeah.
Nobody's going to hire you. You're lucky if you got yourself out of jail, if you could even afford the attorney in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference. A tenured professor, like, he didn't have a whole lot, like, professors don't make a fortune. Most professors don't, like, they're not super highly paid. Academia is not known for most of the time, unless you work for a for-profit college, aren't usually getting rich off of that stuff. If they're well-to-do, it's because they've written books and they've done other things. It's not because they're a professor. And how was he going to wipe all of that? Like, Kobe Bryant, he just threw money at the problem. It's the reason that rich kids get away with, drug offenses and DUIs and all the other
Oh,
stuff.
the affluent kid. That kid has the most punchable face in history.
Right?
That affluent,
Affluenza.
he just got released, by the way, and and then the Stanford, or whatever school it was, UCLA or Stanford, that rich
Stanford,
swimmer
yeah.
kid that raped that
Yep.
poor girl,
Like by a dumpster.
out at a
Right, and
dumpster.
the two kids caught him, stopped him, like the whole 9 yards.
He was like
and
raping her with a
still-
broomstick too.
yeah,
like,
he should be put to death.
Like, we were like, I'm thinking to myself, we're all worried about, like, but he had a promising future. So did she, assholes.
right.
By
No.
the way, but we're worried about
What about her
his
future? Yeah.
Like, no, I don't give a shit about his. And so this is where, like, it gets, people really want to be, well, but what about false allegations? I hear you. And statistics tell me that 8 to 9 times out of 10, those accusations are going to be true.
Sure.
And so I'm going to go with the off chance that it's true. And if I find out that it's not, okay, fine.
Yeah,
But
that's
the Morgan Freeman thing, I wasn't shocked. Like, heartbroken, yes. Shocked, no. Did I believe the accusers? Absolutely.
Of course.
I'm still sad about it. Like, totally sucks because I would have liked for him to have been above board.
Yeah.
Like, I would really have appreciated to have a good guy, like, and someone I really...
Somebody, just for fuck's sake, is anybody sacred?
Right.
Yeah.
Is anybody, like, who's next?
If some shit comes out about Tom Hanks, I'm out of here.
Say that. Like,
shut your mouth.
Say that.
I am out of here.
Sacrilegious. Don't say it.
Oh my God, that would... but I just want I just feel like that if you do falsely accuse somebody, that there should be a harsher punishment for that. Because maybe, because even though it is to whatever percent, it's,
well,
well, that almost points to my point.
And I hear that. But I'm also curious about, like, so then how do we make it safe enough that some of those people who aren't found guilty doesn't mean they didn't do it, by the way.
Right. It just means
the court there wasn't enough evidence to prove. It doesn't mean they didn't do it. So does the person who prosecuted and they found the person not guilty, does that mean that victim who was actually, like, who didn't make false allegations?
That is a slippery slope, I think, too. That's where you get into that. That's a good point.
That's a tough one. You're right.
Like, I wish it was a black and white situation, but it's
You're right.
so
It's
gray.
not.
Like, in the legal stuff, there's so many ways to maneuver the law stuff that, like...
Well, that grosses me out. I hate to see that on any side when the litigation takes precedent over the crime. And it drives me nuts.
It's really hard to prove things. Like, how do you prove some of that stuff? Like,
unless you have a
like,
video.
The legal definition of proof isn't always, the same thing as, like, everybody knows he did it or she did it, or everybody knows they made it up, but nobody can prove that.
Well, that's where
it's such a sticky thing.
I think our only, or I wouldn't say only, but our best option is to make sure that our kids are talked to about all of this. And to give you credit, I wanted to mention this because it made me feel really good. With your sister, Susan, Brooke's sister, told us that after she listened to our podcast with you, the first one, that she went back to our nieces who are 16 and 19 and had the consent talk, because she had the sex talk, of course, because they're great parents. But she said, I'd never thought about the consent talk. And I wanted to let them know that, even if your shirt's off, you can still say no. And if you're here, you can still say no.
Yep.
And good for her.
I know. And that made me feel...
She kind of thought, like, just like I did, like, that it was inferred. That was, like... But it's like, no, I needed to go back and make a point to make sure I had the discussion with him. And we were like, damn.
But those talks, I think, is where we're going to make the most room. Because they're the ones coming up. I mean, the boys need to know how scary it is and what they're held accountable for and what can cause damage. And the girls need to know that they can be, that, they're the boss.
This isn't a joke.
Yeah, and that it's okay.
This isn't something we play games with. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, and you can have all of those conversations, but it means parents have to be willing to talk to their kids. And whenever I hear it's the listener who sent the question in who is willing to have a conversation about, about safe lesbian sex, like,
That's when you went to
thrilled every time I hear that.
I just gave Randall a look like, huh? What question?
She missed that one.
I missed that.
That's right. You missed that question. But, like, any time that parents are willing to have open, difficult conversations, because we don't have all the answers for this. Like, we're still grappling with this stuff. This wasn't stuff we talked about. This wasn't stuff our parents ever thought to say to us. And we're still trying to figure out the answers in the right way. And we don't know, but I think when we let kids understand that we don't have all the answers, I think it opens up for them to start to explore it differently instead of assuming that we always, like, know what we're talking about.
Right.
Well, yeah, and if we let our kids just go off of what's on TV, all they're going to see is that men are scumbags and that they assault all these women.
And women who wear short skirts are sluts and deserve whatever they get.
Yeah, and...
like, no.
There's not going to be any, difference made, because just look at how confused, we are with all three of us with not having the answers to some of these questions. Now imagine being 13 or 14, that this is it's a very hard thing to navigate. And so that's why
I think if kids understand that it's okay to not know.
Absolutely.
Because when it's okay to not know, that it means you can ask and stay curious about it.
Well, that's what I was just about to say.
Opens up possible conversations.
When you're willing to acknowledge that you don't know, that means you're willing to ask for help or assistance, and that's okay. Yeah. Which is, that's kind of what I go by in this whole issue. Is I'm not too proud to say that I know shit about. Good God, man. There's no way I could. I'm a man. I have to be honest. I don't know how you guys feel about it. And so, I enjoy asking these questions. I know they might be, boring for y'all sometimes, but it's...
I don't know. We've had a fun conversation tonight. I don't know if everybody else has enjoyed it as much as we have. But I mean, like, my kids will tell you, like, don't charge up. My mom will talk to you about anything forever.
No, they're absolutely going to love it. But I think that's the best place for us to... we're just going to have to just keep bringing you on whenever we want.
Should we just do it like we'll set up like once a month? Like,
I think that's absolutely. I'm not kidding. I think we should do that. Let's set a firm second. Let's go with this. We're about to come up on
June will be on Friday.
Let's go with the third. Let's go with the third Monday of every month.
Okay. We can do that
if y'all are cool with that. We'll put it on the schedule.
I'm gonna write that.
That's a plan. I'm good with that.
That's always going to be our Rachel episode.
It's the Ask Rachel episode. Okay.
Yep. And we'll just save all the the questions that we get. But if it's okay with you, on the occasion that we get one of those really good questions, we had a listener ask about the 12-year-old thing. I'll shoot it over to you. Sure. If they're pressing for a possible
if we need a faster answer.
Yeah. Just so people, can feel at ease to that, because for some reason there's definitely a few of them that were jumping on board. I think the people that really got attached to this was maybe people that don't have access to a therapist or have always been.
And I also figure sometimes it's the question you want to ask, but you're not sure how your friends might respond to the question, or does anybody even have any experience about this? I don't know who to ask. Or you have really good friends, but they're also kind of judgy.
Absolutely.
Right.
Of course. You don't want to sound like, oh my God, what an idiot. When they're thinking it too.
Or they don't, the fact that you would talk to, maybe their friends are you don't talk to your 12-year-old about lesbian sex. It's not something you would ever talk to your 12-year-old about. So who are you supposed to ask at that point?
Right.
Oh, sure. I give her huge props. I can't wait till she hears this episode, because she got a big chunk, because it was a great question.
Okay. I can't wait to go back and listen to it.
I'll get resources for that. I'll get resources for her, and I'll send those to you guys, and you can email them. Because, let me get some of the better, more up-to-date resources, because I think some of the ones I have are a little dated. Because, that was who are you going to ask that to? I don't know.
Yeah, no shit.
Your friends might not know.
Well, awesome. Well, I love it. We're 100% no bullshit committed. Third Monday of every month.
I wrote it down.
You got it
on our.
As long as you're cool with that, I love it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Cool deal.
Awesome.
I will put it in my calendar.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, thank you so much again. We're gonna get out of here. For one, our dog is sitting here telling us it's way past time for bed.
Yeah. He keeps going back and forth to each of us bitch, come on.
Well, we appreciate you as always. You're the best.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
It was a good time. I'll talk to you guys later.
Talk to you later.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that was a long one.
That was a long one. I mean, we started the episode off talking about how long the previous one was with her, and then we just one-upped it.
I love her so much. She's the best, man.
Yeah, now we're at 2.5 hours.
She's the best. She's so great to us, to give us that kind of time. I mean,
John's over there wagging his tail onto the wall to get our attention more.
I missed the most awesome conversation because you left when when the great question came off about the child, And then
I don't even
I
know
went and
what-
hit the pisser when you asked about the dildo or whatever, or the sex toy.
Well, because I was just like, all right, I don't know what I missed. So I might be switching gears. I just wanted to pick like the juiciest question I could out of my stack. And the look on your face, because you put the headphones back on right when she was saying something about a cock ring. And the look on your face was like, you were not expecting to come back from the bathroom and hear that.
No, and I just love the fact she gives
just dove
zero
right in.
fucks
I
about it.
know.
Man, she's
love
cool
it.
with it. She is secure enough to be like, look, you can stuff your balls up in it.
I know.
If you want to stuff your balls in the cock ring, by all means do that.
If it's your prerogative, yeah.
Hurt, it hurts. And it may delay your ejaculation. But shove your balls up through the cock ring tightly. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That was it didn't even occur to me when John came running down the hallway though, that I didn't put it together immediately that John was sleeping on Gunner's bed.
Oh, I did. I knew it was coming.
It
I
didn't
was kind of pointing.
like all of a sudden. I looked at John like, "What are you so excited about?" Because it didn't. I had forgotten that he was in there sleeping on Gunner's bed. So then, after a second, I was like, "Oh shit!" That means that Gunner's awake and walking down the hall. But yeah, he. I don't know if you heard him, but he was like, "Is it awake time yet?"
I heard him. Well, we got one tidbit to drop for you guys, and we're gonna get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we should be guest stars. No, we should be guests on Po Boys podcast with Jody.
We get to be on the other side of it for once.
And I can't wait. We're both so excited about that.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
He is
Jody's funny.
He is an awesome dude. And I think if people would sit back and listen to his interview style, that dude is awesome.
He's very good.
A great interviewer.
Yeah, he brings the heat too. So
he
I'm
isn't scared
curious.
to ask shit.
Yeah, I'm curious what he's going to ask us.
I know he'll dive in on you and bring the heat on you. So we got that coming up. And
Po Boys podcast. Did you even say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just said that.
I'm
and then,
half asleep right now.
So since we're appearing on his episode Monday, we won't be able to also record ours. So my expectation is Friday night we will record just an old school Brooke and Randall Go Fuck Yourself episode.
Mm-hmm. And how about I post this tomorrow since it's so late?
100%. I totally expect you to post this tomorrow.
I don't want to have to sit here and do
to
all
edit it. And we're off tomorrow, so you can mess with it in the morning, get it all squared away. But that's the tentative lineup for now. Be guests Po Boys tomorrow. You'll get a Friday new episode of us. And
we'll share the link of Jody's Po Boys podcast too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It'll be available.
I don't even know what time we're supposed to call him. So.
I think it's going to be 9.
Okay. He's going to conform to our time.
Yeah, I think it was good for him too.
Oh, okay.
It's a good time for him.
Good.
But that's all I've got. So you guys be good to each other. Stick a finger up your own ass and go fuck yourself.
All right. Bye.